Under the vast northern sky, the great General Seonhwa Yun rose to power through unmatched martial skill. He brought peace to political chaos and crowned Yuja Urim as emperor. To aid Urim, he appointed 6 masters, his loyal comrades who had shared life and death with him, as kings. The scene shifted to a battlefield where Seonhwa lay severely wounded. Struggling to stand, he was soon surrounded by familiar faces. Recognizing them, he realized they were the 6 kings. Betrayal pierced deeper than any wound as he uttered their title with disbelief. Among them, the Sword King stepped forward, declaring it was time for the great general to fall. Seonhwa cried out, questioning if they had truly forgotten him. Looking down, he noticed his leg was severed, bleeding heavily. The Sword King coldly stated that in such a condition there was nothing Seonhwa could do. This was the end. But Seonhwa awakened his power. Fierce winds surged as energy erupted around him. Another master remarked that this would change nothing. Yet the power only grew. A different voice observed the incredible force radiating from Seonhwa despite his state. With burning determination, Seonhwa refused to die while surrounded by traitors. He declared his resolve to face them all, even if it meant dying with them. He was ready to unleash the final dance of the Avatar. One of the masters questioned if killing the great general was even possible, given the level of Seonhwa's individual martial power. The Sword King silenced the doubts and commanded them to prepare for battle. In his thoughts, the Sword King acknowledged Seonhwa's presence, making even enlightened masters uneasy. Truly, he was worthy of being called the martial god. Seonhwa, meanwhile, knew his body wouldn't last. At most, he had 30 minutes. He questioned if he could take on 6 enlightened masters in that short time. He urged himself to stay focused and at least bring one of them down with him. His thoughts drifted to his brother. If Urim were here, he would have been a great help. Seonhwa wondered where he was. Suddenly, pain struck from behind. A sword pierced through him. The voice behind him spoke of enduring 3,000 explosives and still possessing such might with a severed leg. Shock filled Seonhwa as he recognized the voice. Turning, he saw Urim, his brother, smiling coldly. Urim calmly stated they couldn't allow Seonhwa to live. Seonhwa, stunned, collapsed to the ground. Urim declared himself the true ruler of the world, Emperor Urim. But he added that even above an emperor stood a god, martial god Seonhwa Yun. Now that Seonhwa's era had ended, Urim believed he had truly become emperor. Looking down at his brother, Urim claimed he seemed to be in pain and offered to ease it. In his final thoughts, Seonhwa reflected on the betrayal. His comrades had turned on him, and even Urim had joined them. It was hard to believe. Suddenly, the world around him shifted. Seonhwa found himself in a strange place, dark and hot. He wondered if it was purgatory. He stood above water, staring into its reflection. Shock consumed him as he saw not a seasoned general but a young boy. He realized the child was himself. Outside the container, voices echoed. 2 men spoke of following orders, though boiling children alive felt too cruel. They remarked on the palace lord's heartlessness, for only such a person would use their own child as medicine. Inside, Seonhwa tried to get up, but couldn't. His small body made escape impossible. Observing the hole in the ceiling and the pot-like structure around him, he concluded it was a giant boiling chamber. The searing heat was unbearable. Could this really be his fate? Then he noticed the flames. Among them was a blue flower. The men outside confirmed it. Its heat was so intense it could melt bones. They noted how the flames rose as the blue flower bloomed. Seonhwa struggled to breathe. His mind was beginning to fade, likely before his body would burn. Just then, a voice called out, startling him. Before him stood his master. Seonhwa asked how he could be there. The master responded with certainty. The Avatar's great dance was born from flames. This fiery chamber was the stage for the Avatar. Shouting, he commanded Seonhwa to dance. Inspired, Seonhwa began to move. Though he didn't yet understand why he was in this young body, he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't die like this. Not with traitors still alive. In this moment of crisis, the only thing he could rely on was what his master had left behind. The Avatar's great dance. Outside the container, one of the men whispered that this act was truly unforgivable. At that moment, an old man arrived, a doctor, and upon seeing the blue flower, he was visibly shocked. One of the guards mentioned that this doctor had been the young master's personal physician for 15 years, suggesting he would see the boy as his own child. The doctor stood still, furious, muttering to himself that using the blue flower had gone too far. With those words, he turned to leave, but suddenly he heard a surprising noise behind him. As he looked back, his eyes widened in disbelief. The blue flower had transformed into the shape of a massive dragon. Staring at the phenomenon, the doctor was stunned. Inside the container, Seonhwa was now performing the Avatar's great dance with remarkable precision. His master, watching him, expressed his approval and joined in. Together they danced in sync, surrounded by flames and energy. A brilliant light burst upward from within the container, catching the attention of the 2 men outside. One of them, amazed, admitted he had never seen anything like it. The other, surprised, asked how that was possible after 15 years of working there. The first man replied that no one would believe him even if he told them. It looked as if a dragon was rampaging within. Suddenly, cracks began forming on the container. One man recognized the dance's power, calling it the Avatar's Great Dance, while the other urged them to flee. Before they could act, a loud explosion shattered the container. The doctor looked ahead and saw the container completely destroyed. From within the wreckage, Seonhwa emerged, his body glowing with an intense aura. The doctor was shocked to see him alive and began smiling in relief. Seonhwa declared his return from the depths of death and let out a powerful scream. The doctor and the two men were startled by the outburst. Then, Seonhwa collapsed from exhaustion, and the doctor rushed forward to catch him. The scene shifted to the doctor's home, where Seonhwa lay unconscious on a bed. Observing him, the doctor noted with amazement that the boy was merely suffering from dehydration and fatigue, bearing only minor injuries. It was hard to believe this same body had endured the blazing Avatar's great dance. Soon, the two men returned and informed the doctor that the palace lord urgently requested his presence. The doctor looked at Seonhwa, acknowledged the message, and agreed to go. After everyone left, a shadowy figure secretly entered the doctor's home. Moving silently to Seonhwa's bedside, the man took out a vial and forced its contents into Seonhwa's mouth. Moments later, Seonhwa suddenly woke up and screamed in pain. As the man turned to leave, he glanced at Seonhwa and muttered to himself a bitter curse towards Seonhwa's mother. He concluded by saying that everything happens according to the law of the sun. Soon after, the doctor returned to his home and found Seonhwa collapsed on the ground. Alarmed, he rushed toward him and tried to lift him up. As he looked closely, he noticed blood coming from Seonhwa's mouth and realized it was poison. The doctor muttered that the young master must be truly despised. But to him, any poison was simply bitter medicine before the might of the sun heart. He knew he had to prepare an antidote quickly. Just then, Seonhwa suddenly stood up and placed a needle into the garden ground. The doctor was stunned and realized he hadn't sensed Seonhwa's presence at all, which impressed him deeply. Seonhwa firmly declared that he would ask the questions and the doctor would simply answer. Amused, the doctor acknowledged his bold attitude and welcomed the questioning, noting how the sun heart might have changed him. In his thoughts, Seonhwa analyzed the doctor's calm demeanor and detailed answers. It seemed as if the doctor had been waiting for this moment. He realized he was in the Solar Palace, one of the 3 branches of the Heavenly Demon sect. He was the 4th young master, 15 years old. His father, the Solar Palace Lord, had attempted to create a miraculous elixir known as the Solar Divine Pill by boiling his own son alive in medicinal herbs. It was clear the man was insane. Assassins had already targeted him, which meant his father wasn't the only one trying to kill him. It was clear that this life would be as turbulent as his past one. Yet from that hellish experience, he had gained the Sun Heart. The liquid in the massive cauldron was meant to form the Solar Divine Pill, but instead, it embedded the Sun Heart within him. According to the doctor, no poison could affect it. Though his heartbeat was slow, it burned hot and strong, like the sun itself was now inside his chest. He had returned from death with something extraordinary. He also recalled that the current year was Jeonshan 22. He had died in Jeonshan 7. That meant the 7 warlords of the End War were still alive. His thirst for revenge began to boil. But for now, he was just a 15-year-old boy in need of allies, and he couldn't yet tell if this doctor was a friend or a foe. Seonhwa tossed his needle aside and handed a cloth to the doctor, suggesting it would serve him better. The doctor smiled and asked if Seonhwa had decided whether he was a friend or an enemy, impressed by his resolve. Sensing a faint killing intent, Seonhwa stayed alert. Without warning, the doctor launched a needle toward Seonhwa. But Seonhwa didn't even attempt to dodge, surprising the doctor. He wondered if Seonhwa had really believed he wouldn't stab him. With a calm smile, Seonhwa admitted that he expected the doctor to want something from him. Pleased, the doctor declared that Seonhwa should now call him master. He offered to teach martial arts that utilized the Sun Heart, specifically the Heavenly Demon sect's strongest fighting technique, the Life and Death Strike. Hearing this, Seonhwa was stunned. He knew the Life and Death Strike was the demonic technique created by the sect's first leader. He never expected someone like this doctor to possess such knowledge. Reading his expression, the doctor acknowledged that he didn't look the part. But in the Life and Death bloodline, instructors and disciples were distinct roles. His duty was to find and train disciples. Becoming a doctor was his way to keep them alive through brutal training. Curious, Seonhwa asked how brutal this training truly was, and how many had ever mastered the technique. The doctor answered bluntly, no one had so far. Their bodies couldn't withstand it. Only the sect leader, who possessed the Sun and Moon Divine Core, could endure its power. However, Seonhwa had the Sun Heart and was still growing. By adulthood, his body would be as if reborn. He would be able to withstand even the power of the chaotic lifeless pill. This revelation intrigued Seonhwa. After surviving such torment, he now had a chance to learn this legendary martial art. Determined, he vowed to learn and master it, and to use both the Avatar's Great Dance and the Life and Death Strike against the filthy traitors of his past. But the doctor warned him. The real problem was that he was the 4th young master. That meant he had 3 older brothers, likely the ones sending assassins after him. The doctor explained that outside of the medical wing, everyone would try to devour him. At that moment, the sound of someone approaching interrupted them. A man entered and announced that he had arrived just in time to see his little brother awake. This man was Je Cheon-woo, the 1st young master of the Solar Palace. The doctor respectfully addressed him and asked why he hadn't sent word. Qianwu explained that he had come urgently to see the boy who had caused such chaos in the palace. Looking at Seonhwa, Qianwu asked why he was being stared at like a stranger, claiming he was his brother. Seonhwa observed Qianwu's smile and cold eyes. He found him unpleasant and thought to himself, was this really his older brother? Without hesitation, Seonhwa replied that he didn't know him. Qianwu turned to the doctor and asked if Seonhwa had lost his memory, unable to recognize his own sibling. The doctor clarified that, to his knowledge, this was the first time the two had met face to face. Qianwu chuckled and said he must have been mistaken. After all, who would pay attention to a bug crawling on the palace floor, an existence so low it went unnoticed even by birds in the sky? Seonhwa, unfazed, thought to himself that this brat was provoking him like a street thug. In his past life, he was the martial god of eloquence, and now this fool was challenging him verbally. Calmly, he retorted that the real bug wasn't him. He questioned whether someone with such a poor memory deserved to be the first young master. Qianwu's anger began to rise while the doctor chuckled quietly. Placing a hand on Seonhwa's shoulder, Qianwu mocked him, saying that meeting a lowly mother and an unnamed brat had clearly muddled his memory. Seonhwa replied simply. His name was Hwayun. Both the doctor and Qianwu were shocked by this revelation. Qianwu repeated the name in disbelief, recognizing it as the name of the great general of the northern sky. Qianwu laughed at Seonhwa's words and mocked the grandiosity of the name, calling it overly majestic for something chosen by a lowly mother. In response, Seonhwa clarified that he didn't have a lowly mother, but he did have a big brother with a filthy mouth. Qianwu grew furious and was about to draw his sword, but the doctor placed a hand on his shoulder, reminding him that the fourth young master was still a patient. Ignoring the advice, Qianwu declared that Seonhwa would remain a patient for the foreseeable future and warned the doctor not to interfere, just to prepare plenty of medicine. Seonhwa calmly remarked that Qianwu might become the patient himself, so it would be wise to keep extra medicine ready. Infuriated, Qianwu internally cursed Seonhwa's insolence. Qianwu brushed the doctor's hand off his shoulder and reluctantly said he would leave for the day since the doctor had stopped him. But before departing, he placed a hand on Seonhwa's shoulder, and a red energy flared from his eyes. As the elder brother, Qianwu claimed he had the right to give advice and warned Seonhwa that his mouth would only work while he was alive. The red energy surged into Seonhwa's ears. While leaving, Qianwu sneered that he hoped to see Seonhwa next time, if he was still in one piece. The doctor, puzzled, wondered if Qianwu had used a hidden weapon. He realized it was an internal injury technique that injected malicious energy into the opponent's body. Over time, it ruptured muscles, burst organs, and twisted blood vessels, slowly destroying the body from within. However, he believed the Sun Heart would easily counter this hidden weapon. The doctor quietly reflected on how narrow-minded the grandson of the Black Darkness Lord was. Seonhwa also pondered whether the Black Darkness Lord himself was narrow-minded, but felt grateful things ended well thanks to his master. The doctor asked Seonhwa if he had caused this ruckus because he trusted him, but Seonhwa casually replied that he was still a patient and felt a bit dizzy. Accepting the excuse, the doctor asked if the name Seonhwa was really given by Sua. Seonhwa decided to let the doctor remain mistaken and didn't correct him. The doctor suggested they tell others that Seonhwa had lost his memory, noting that even the first young master seemed convinced of it. Seonhwa agreed. As the doctor walked away, he praised Seonhwa's obedient responses. Reflecting deeply, Seonhwa remembered that 5 days after becoming a disciple, his master told him that mastering the life and death strike, the ultimate technique paired with the sun and moon divine core of the heavenly demon sect's first leader, would allow him to fully harness the solar power within the Sun Heart. If he could perform the life and death strike, there was no reason he couldn't master the Avatar's great dance. He recalled how the 84,000 dances of the Avatar's great dance never failed him. As he thought of this, Master Yan's spirit appeared, whistling. Joy lit up Seonhwa's face. To him, the Avatar's great dance was a rhythm guided by his master's whistle. It was his life and strength. Though he couldn't wield powerful martial arts, certain movements in the dance held traces of solar power. Rediscovering the joy of growth, he realized he had found a fragment of the countless martial arts hidden within the Avatar's great dance. Whether for revenge or independence, mastering martial arts was the first step. He was determined to conquer the Sun Heart, achieve the Sun and Moon divine core, and grasp the two ultimate martial arts he failed to master in his past life. Just then, a man arrived and commented on how impressive the dance was. Seonhwa modestly responded that it was just a simple dance. The man accepted the explanation but asked if Jang Myong was inside. Seonhwa replied that he had stepped out for a moment. The man questioned whether Jang Myong had told Seonhwa that. He acknowledged the impressive movements, but lamented that they were just empty gestures without a core technique to support them. Seonhwa realized the man had detected something within the Avatar's great dance and assumed he must be a supreme master. The man then asked if Seonhwa remembered him, to which Seonhwa replied he didn't. The man introduced himself as Seoncheon, the lawmaster of the Solar Divine Palace from the Northern Martial Sect. Surprised, Seonhwa introduced himself as Hwayun. Hearing the name, the lawmaster was taken aback, but then smiled, praising the name and asking if Sua had given it. Internally, Seonhwa wondered if he could trust Seonchan as an ally, but knew more important concerns were at hand. Out loud, he asked if his name was a problem. Xianqian replied that he wouldn't use internal energy and would only fight with his right hand. Xianhua realized this was a martial arts match. It wasn't a bad challenge, and he felt he should at least convey his thoughts while charging in. Xianqian expressed that whether it was dance or martial arts, if it could harm others, it became a powerful weapon. He felt it was necessary to give the fourth young master, who had nothing to protect himself, at least one shield. He would need it to survive the coming night. Hearing this, Xianhua repeated the word tonight, just as Xianqian launched a punch at him. Xianhua quickly ducked to avoid it, catching the lawmaster by surprise. Xianhua launched a punch toward the lawmaster, prompting the elder to internally question if this was the lance technique, Changrin Morning Glory. Instinctively, the lawmaster shifted back, surprised by the force behind the attack. He sensed no internal energy, yet the strike felt like a solid spear. Despite intending not to use his own internal energy, he had activated it unconsciously. Admitting defeat, the lawmaster acknowledged he had lost cleanly in the very first move. He questioned whether Xianhua was truly the fourth young master. Xianhua responded that he had simply learned well from him. The lawmaster proposed a second round and immediately launched an attack. As Xianhua dodged, he realized the attacks resembled swordsmanship, making him wonder if Bukmujan was actually a swordsman. The lawmaster kept pressing with rapid strikes. While evading them all, Xianhua understood this was the shield Xianqian had promised, a safe clash with a true master to help him grow. As the duel intensified, aura began radiating from Xianhua's body. The lawmaster judged his technique poor and lacking, criticizing his strategy of letting energy escape into the air. Yet Xianhua pressed forward, acknowledging Bukmujan as the embodiment of Solar Palace's martial arts. Still, he knew it wasn't enough. Xianhua struck from above, but the lawmaster dodged effortlessly. Then Xianhua landed a swift kick to his leg, forcing him to crouch. Observing the boy, the lawmaster found him terrifying. He questioned whether Xianhua's progress was part of a larger plan or if it was natural talent, the kind only a martial god would possess. The lawmaster, impressed, referenced the style as a dance, and Xianhua confirmed it. The elder admitted he had only meant to offer a shield, but realized Xianhua already wielded a sharp weapon. Xianhua replied humbly, saying if the lawmaster had used both internal energy and arms, he would have been reduced to a puddle of blood. The lawmaster stated that while internal energy could be built with time, cultivating true human strength was rare, and Xianhua already possessed it. Xianhua reflected that time, however, was the real issue. The lawmaster then asked where Xianhua had learned the dance. At that moment, the doctor arrived, revealing that Xianhua had no memories. The lawmaster, surprised, questioned how he could still remember the dance. The doctor guessed that some things returned to him occasionally. Xianhua felt lucky that the master had appeared at just the right time. The lawmaster, turning to the doctor, teased him about being too talkative. The doctor responded with equal sarcasm, asking why the lawmaster had come. The elder explained he was there to deliver the palace lord's orders. The Silent Cloud sect might be plotting something, but regardless, he had come on official business. The lawmaster then turned to Xianhua and declared that the fourth young master must kneel. It was the command of the palace lord. Xianhua obeyed. While kneeling, he reflected on how he had never bowed even before the emperor. But now, as the fourth young master of the Solar Palace, he had no choice. The lawmaster announced that the palace lord had noticed improvement in the nameless state. Xianhua was to return to the Nightfall Pavilion and prepare for the name-granting ceremony. Xianhua acknowledged the command. In his thoughts, he realized that officially he didn't have a name yet. That explained why others were surprised when he introduced himself. Still, he vowed not to back down. He would always be Huayun. The doctor criticized the lawmaster for conducting such a petty test, reminding him that Xianhua had no memories. The lawmaster shrugged it off, saying it was simply his duty. Xianhua wondered aloud what more he could have done and internally questioned whether a ritual was required, considering the sect's ties to the demon sect. The lawmaster explained that in the Solar Palace everyone must respond with, "All is by the law of the sun," upon receiving the palace lord's orders. Xianhua noted that even the assassins who tried to kill him had used those same words. It made him wonder if the palace lord had sent them. Still, Xianhua responded with the required phrase, "All is by the law of the sun." The lawmaster handed him a scroll, saying that memories, whether present or not, wouldn't change his life. Strength, however, could. With it, life would transform. Xianhua asked if he wasn't suspicious. The lawmaster replied that he didn't doubt Xianhua's growth. After all, he was Sua's son, the palace lord's child. That was all he could say for now. He promised they would meet again someday. As he left, the doctor tried to stop him, and the two began speaking privately while walking away. Xianhua realized he couldn't even overhear their voice transmissions. It seemed there was a secret surrounding his birth. Later, Xianhua approached the Nightfall Pavilion. Upon seeing its ruined state, he wondered if this was truly the place the palace lord had instructed him to return to. Inside, a man was already seated. Xianhua asked why he wasn't entering. The man introduced himself as Jicheonyok and mentioned the doctor had said Xianhua had no memories. Xianhua admitted that was true. Jicheonyok delivered a grim message. Fourth, young master Nameless should die by his hand. Rather than live like a worm crawling on the ground, it would be better to die now. Xianhua recognized the name. Jicheonyok. This must be the second brother his master had once called a bastard. He added mentally that the master should have mentioned he was crazy too. Regardless, the choice was clear. Kill or be killed. Cheonhyuk laughed, asking if Seonhwa truly wanted to fight him. Seonhwa, unfazed, told him to stop talking and come at him. Angered, Cheonhyuk unsheathed his sword, declaring that struggling before death was ugly. Seonhwa responded coolly, saying it was still better than pointless chatter. Then, thinking to himself, he concluded that the only cure for a mad dog was a good beating. As the tension peaked, a fierce battle erupted between Seonhwa and Cheonhyuk. Seonhwa, focused and calm, channeled his inner energy into his weapon, believing that even without a divine blade, a well-placed strike could make Cheonhyuk fall like any first-rate master. Cheonhyuk remarked that Seonhwa was nimbler than he'd expected. But Seonhwa countered with fierce resolve, taunting him for growing up in comfort and claiming that such shallow martial arts were nothing to be proud of. He ridiculed Cheonhyuk's boldness, calling out his empty talk. In return, Cheonhyuk mocked Seonhwa's sharp tongue, saying it was a weapon he didn't hold in his hands. Seonhwa replied with sharp wit, claiming that while his words hit their target, Cheonhyuk's strikes had missed entirely. Observing his opponent's calm demeanor, Seonhwa realized Cheonhyuk wasn't as easily provoked as he'd thought. Still, Cheonhyuk acknowledged the rumors of the first young master's fury, sarcastically praising Seonhwa's tongue-wagging skills. Seonhwa replied coldly that they were better than Cheonhyuk's swordsmanship. That provoked Cheonhyuk further, who questioned if Seonhwa had no concern for his own life. Seonhwa dismissed the worry, stating that sharing the same blood didn't mean he would go easy on his brother. Angered, Cheonhyuk called Seonhwa's provocation pathetic but warned he'd let it slide only once. This reaction made Seonhwa wonder if bloodline was Cheonhyuk's weakness. Then Cheonhyuk launched an attack, stating that even if they shared the same father, they were different people. Seonhwa dodged the blow, noting how Cheonhyuk's face strongly resembled the Sun Palace Lord. Still, he could see the struggle in Cheonhyuk's expression, a desperate denial. Laughing, Seonhwa poked at a deeper wound, asking if Cheonhyuk hated the Sun Palace Lord because of his mother. That struck a nerve. Cheonhyuk attempted to strike Seonhwa with his sword, but Seonhwa leaped back in time, realizing the tip of the sword wavered. The provocation seemed to be working. Cheonhyuk sneered at Seonhwa's evasive tactics, questioning his desire to survive so badly. But Seonhwa hit back verbally, accusing Cheonhyuk of acting like a child, stuck in thoughts of his mother, and told him to grow up. When Cheonhyuk asked what Seonhwa knew, Seonhwa raised a brutal question. Among all the wives of the Sun Palace Lord, whom did he truly love? Was it Cheonhyuk's mother? Cheonhyuk responded bitterly. All three wives, including his mother, had been political marriages. Everyone knew Bansua, Seonhwa's mother, had monopolized the Sun Palace Lord's love. He accused Seonhwa of being the miracle son who was offered as a sacrifice and somehow survived. Seonhwa questioned if Cheonhyuk was envious, asking if that's what made him hate the Palace Lord. But Cheonhyuk denied it, adding that if Seonhwa died, it would hurt the Palace Lord too. This shook Seonhwa. What Cheonhyuk said didn't align with what he knew. If the Palace Lord loved his mother and him, why would he be thrown into a place like this? He recalled being deliberately chosen as a sacrifice by the Palace Lord himself, and that his current situation was the result of being ordered to return to Chilryagak. Doubt and confusion swirled in his mind. What was the Sun Palace Lord truly thinking? Frustrated, Seonhwa cursed Cheonhyuk. His mind raced with one priority: survive. Cheonhyuk, hearing the insult, sarcastically thanked Seonhwa for calling the Palace Lord a dog. Seonhwa replied that if he killed a fellow son of a bitch, wouldn't that cause problems? Cheonhyuk smirked and reminded him of the first law of the Taeyang Divine Palace. Only those with a name were considered human. So, a nameless wench like Seonhwa meant nothing and could die without consequence. With that, he launched a fierce attack, which Seonhwa managed to block. Seonhwa noticed the provocation had done its job. The sword's tip had been unsteady for a while. He observed that Cheonhyuk's left shoulder was raised, meaning he'd fall to the right. With a confident strategy, Seonhwa recalled a monk's old saying: standing atop a 100-foot pole, take one more step forward. Those who take a step toward death discover a new world. Seizing the moment, Seonhwa struck with his fist of Hwashin, pushing Cheonhyuk back. But as Cheonhyuk tried to counter by slashing at Seonhwa's leg, Seonhwa jumped and dodged. He remembered the Four Kings' true slash sword, and that Bokmunjun had taught him the shield to block it. Gathering his aura into his fist, Seonhwa landed a punch straight into Cheonhyuk's face. But suddenly Elder Yang appeared and shoved Seonhwa back. Cheonhyuk shouted that Seonhwa was his to deal with. However, Elder Yang interrupted, declaring that the second young master's life was not just his own. As the successor of the Dark Cloud Association, he could not be defeated. Seeing the Elder's damaged hands, Cheonhyuk was stunned. That single blocked punch had such an effect? Elder Yang powered up, declaring he would take responsibility for everything that happened from now on. Seonhwa observed him channeling ki into his hands. This was the realm of a fully accomplished master. Seonhwa knew he couldn't win with his current strength. But if he could make Elder Yang careless, there might be an opening. That was the plan. Make him drop his guard. Elder Yang, ready to strike, warned Seonhwa he wouldn't let him escape. Seonhwa played into the role of a frightened child, mocking the elder for interfering in a children's fight. Inwardly, he hoped to be underestimated. Elder Yang charged, saying the boy's skull was about to be smashed. He swung at Seonhwa, but Seonhwa dodged the attack and dashed straight toward Cheonhyuk. His true target had always been him. In one swift move, Seonhwa drove his knee straight into Cheonhyuk's face. Elder Yang was startled by the sight before him and rushed toward Cheonhyuk, but Seonhwa stepped in and ordered him to stop. Without hesitation, Seonhwa broke one of Cheonhyuk's fingers, thinking to himself how precious the old man must consider the boy he was guarding. Elder Yang, filled with rage, shouted that Seonhwa wouldn't survive this act. But Seonhwa coldly replied that 8 more fingers remained. Elder Yang acknowledged Seonhwa's toughness and asked what he wanted him to do. Seonhwa reminded him that he was the one asking the questions and warned that more fingers would break if he didn't cooperate. Elder Yang offered to take Cheonhyuk in exchange for Seonhwa's safety. In response, Seonhwa broke another finger, questioning how he could trust Elder Yang not to kill him right after. Elder Yang insisted that even if he disappeared, he couldn't trust Seonhwa to spare Cheonhyuk. Seonhwa declared that if things continued this way, both Jaehyuk and he would die. He reminded Elder Yang that the same man who once told him not to live a pathetic life was now trembling. Cheonhyuk, despite the pain, insulted Seonhwa, calling him worse than an insect. Still, Seonhwa claimed he would let him live. Then, grabbing Cheonhyuk by the throat, he choked him hard until blood spilled from his mouth. Seonhwa cruelly remarked that it might hurt and suggested Cheonhyuk beg Elder Yang for help. Elder Yang stood still, unable to act. Seonhwa asked him again if he still didn't know what to do. Elder Yang admitted he didn't. Seonhwa then ordered him to destroy his own dantian on the spot, claiming that would ensure his own safety. He added that this way, Elder Yang could at least save half of Cheonhyuk's life. The shocking suggestion made Elder Yang freeze in disbelief. Seonhwa declared that the situation had come down to choosing between Elder Yang's martial arts and the life of a successor. Cheonhyuk interrupted, saying there was no need to go that far. Seonhwa reflected that he had widened the rift between the two men, another gain for him. Above all, he had to survive. Looking at Elder Yang, he mentioned that sunrise wasn't far off. Just then, Elder Yang began gathering his energy, preparing to act. But suddenly, someone launched an attack on him. It was the Lord of the Law Hall. The Lawmaster declared that a member of the Mukun Association had no right to enter the main palace at such an hour. Elder Yang insisted this wasn't the real issue and pointed to Cheonhyuk's condition. But the Lawmaster dismissed it as a children's quarrel. He reminded Cheonhyuk that he had asked him to ignore the events of the night and confirmed if that agreement still stood. Cheonhyuk acknowledged it. The Lawmaster turned to Seonhwa and declared that in the world of the demonic cult, the strong always took from the weak. An unbroken law for 1,000 years, rooted in Gangjajeon. He then asked Seonhwa what he would claim. Cheonhyuk protested, saying Seonhwa didn't even have a name and questioned why he was being acknowledged. The Lawmaster explained that Seonhwa did have a name, one given by his mother, and the naming ceremony would be held the next day. He asked Seonhwa once again what he wanted to take from Cheonhyuk, as per Gangjajeon. Seonhwa asked if taking his life was an option. The question enraged Elder Yang, but the Lawmaster restrained him and confirmed that it was indeed possible. Elder Yang, visibly shaken, warned that the consequences of the night wouldn't be easily dismissed. The Lawmaster coldly replied that as the Lord of Law, it was his duty to enforce the law in the Sun Palace, not to entertain arguments. Cheonhyuk glanced down at his shattered fingers. Seonhwa asked him if he wanted to live. Cheonhyuk was confused. Seonhwa clarified, asking if he wanted to live like an insect. Cheonhyuk, filled with humiliation, demanded Seonhwa to kill him if he was going to be toyed with. Seonhwa thought he was insolent, and reasoned that killing him might prevent future trouble. Elder Yang urged Cheonhyuk to compose himself, but Seonhwa considered the bigger picture. He realized Cheonhyuk had strong backing and decided to act carefully. The appearance of the Northern Martial Master, who had likely been watching all along, was a sign that he had to back off. Suddenly, Seonhwa tightly grabbed Cheonhyuk's hand and crushed it, saying that would settle the score. The Lawmaster approved and used his powers to teleport Cheonhyuk back to Elder Yang. He declared that Cheonhyuk's crime of intruding into the palace would be dealt with later. As for the fight, no punishment would be pursued since Jaehyuk, the loser, had requested none. As Cheonhyuk stood up, he mocked the naming ceremony, asking if Seonhwa would dare repeat that his name came from a lowly woman. The Lawmaster replied that his standards remained the same. Cheonhyuk, accepting the challenge, left with Elder Yang while stating that he would remember the Lawmaster's words. After their departure, the Lawmaster congratulated Seonhwa and advised him to survive the next day. Everything, he said, would follow the law of the sun. With that, he swiftly departed. Left alone, Seonhwa reflected on his situation. He wasn't the great General Hwan anymore. He was now the 4th young master of the Sun God Palace, a troublemaker. He didn't desire good dreams, only peaceful sleep. But unknown to him, someone was already watching. The next morning, a new scene unfolded. The 3rd young master arrived at a remote location and asked someone if the 4th young master truly lived in such a place. The man confirmed it, adding that the palace lord had personally ordered Seonhwa to return there the previous day. The 3rd young master sarcastically remarked that it was like a welcome drenched in rain and snow. The man explained that if Seonhwa received a name at the ceremony, he would escape such treatment. The 3rd young master complained that the money would come out of their pockets. The man said it couldn't be helped. Accepting the situation, the third young master noted that people often returned to the scene of their crime. Then he looked ahead, where Seonhwa sat calmly among the corpses of the assassins he had killed. Amused, the third young master introduced himself with a grin. He was Jaehyun Han, the third young master, and Seonhwa's older brother. Upon hearing that, Seonhwa looked at him and thought to himself, so this was the one. Then we see Seonhwa and Jaehyun travel together in a carriage, heading toward the Bonghwa Twin Peaks. Jaehyun, never short on words, explains their destination and what Seonhwa must do at the ceremony. Just say yes, and it will all be over. He reassures him not to be nervous. Once Seonhwa receives his name, financial support from the Sun Palace will follow. With that, he can repair the Nightfall Pavilion and purchase new clothes or weapons. Jaehyun comments on the ceremonial robe, noting that while it's a bit big, its fluttering makes it stylish. Listening to Jaehyun's non-stop chatter, Seonhwa reflects silently, realizing he talks the entire way. Jaehyun then changes the topic, asking if Seonhwa had heard about the humiliation suffered by Elder Yang of the Silent Cloud sect and Scholar Lee. Seonhwa responds calmly, saying he just heard now. Jaehyun, momentarily surprised, chuckles before trying to speak again. Observing this, Seonhwa begins to wonder if Jaehyun is finally revealing his fangs. Jaehyun presses further, implying that what happened to Elder Yang and Scholar Lee may have been because of Seonhwa. Internally, Seonhwa finds this tough to handle, admitting it was easier with the first and second ones. Out loud he agrees. They both came at him and he simply responded. But he wonders aloud if there's nothing in return for him. Jaehyun acknowledges the balance of give and take, suggesting repairing Nightfall Pavilion as a return. But Seonhwa refuses that. Instead, he asks for a story. Everything. Jaehyun finds that request unbalanced. Seonhwa, contemplating a different approach, changes his posture and addresses Jaehyun with mock formality, placing trust in his elder brother. Jaehyun reacts oddly to this, prompting Seonhwa to play innocent, noting how surprising it is that Jaehyun can speak so formally and switch attitudes like flipping a hand. He adds that if Jaehyun doesn't like it, he can just forget it. Jaehyun laughs, admitting he didn't know his little brother was so interesting. Since it's Seonhwa asking, he won't charge him. He'll answer as his older brother. Seonhwa then asks what happens if someone attending the naming ceremony already has a name. Just then, someone among Seonhwa's group shouts repeatedly for the carriage to stop. Jaehyun signals one of his men, and the other four move out in separate directions. Watching the organized movement, Seonhwa thinks to himself. They're spreading systematically, guarding all sides, encircling the area. Suddenly, Jaehyun asks if Seonhwa indeed has a name. Seonhwa answers that his name is Seowayun. Jaehyun acknowledges it's a good name, one fit for a warrior, and asks if his mother gave it to him. Internally, Seonhwa reflects that when it comes to names, everyone always brings up their mothers. Jaehyun questions if anyone else knows Seonhwa has a name. If not, he could simply receive a new name today. But the moment is interrupted. The first young master, Jaehyun Han. Jaehyun Hyuk, the elder of Yangmongsan. Even the law archivists and members of the Silent Cloud sect, everyone who shouldn't be present is there. There is no brushing it off now. Seonhwa quietly responds, so that's how it is. Jaehyun continues, explaining that the naming ceremony is for the Sun Palace Lord's direct descendants. The Palace Lord bestows the name, recognizing heirs, a display of power. It usually happens at age 10, but Seonhwa's case is different. Seonhwa, deep in thought, recalls he was born to Ban Sua, a mother with no background. Even the Palace Lord had abandoned him. For 5 years, he wasn't treated as human within the Sun Palace. A warrior notes that every child has a childhood name before the ceremony. Even the third young master had one, Dan Wookyung, if they called Seonhwa's a childhood name. But Jaehyun cuts him off. That's not the problem. Warrior On questions it. The fourth prince already used his name to invoke the Stronghold's decree, and he got approval directly from the law archivist. Jaehyun firmly states it can't be dismissed as a childhood name. Seonhwa realizes Jaehyun talks as if he witnessed everything firsthand. Does he have ears inside the Silent Cloud sect too? The energy he felt during their handshake, and with Dan Wookyung being the childhood name, the pieces start falling into place. But why would someone with so much information spill it so easily? Jaehyun turns serious. Seowayun, the situation is dire. The naming ceremony will gather the Sun Palace's inner court and all 3 High Lords. If Seonhwa declares he already has a name and refuses the Palace Lords, disaster will follow. Seonhwa bluntly asks, would they kill him? And wonders silently, what kind of scheme is this? Jaehyun confirms the risk. He doesn't know how the Palace Lord will react, but one thing is clear. He despises any challenge to his authority. Neither the Black Eclipse Order nor the Silent Cloud sect will protect Seonhwa. In fact, Silent Cloud will likely seize this chance to eliminate him. Jaehyun had anticipated that might happen, but Seonhwa notices. Jaehyun leaves himself out of the picture. Is he trying to draw more attention? If so, Seonhwa decides he'll grant him that. He then asks, if survival depends on it, does he need help from the third faction? Jaehyun smiles, confirming it. The third faction is them, not the Orthodox Black Eclipse, nor the homegrown Silent Cloud. Seonhwa asks what they call themselves. Jaehyun answers, the Sea Dragon Syndicate. Not the fourth prince, his little brother. They will intervene to save him, but the price will be steep. That means Seonhwa would owe allegiance to the third prince. Jaehyun reminds him, they're family now. If Seonhwa wishes, they'll take him beyond the southern shores, into the monster-plagued heartlands. Seonhwa asks how. Jaehyun says he'll explain, if Seonhwa agrees to join. The choice now lies with him. Seonhwa gives his answer, his gratitude, elder brother. Jaehyun asks how. But internally, Seonhwa pleads for forgiveness, admitting he's already shattered even the Black Knight illusions of Jaehyun's grandfather, Dan Gumseong. Compared to the horrors Jaehyun has shown him, Seonhwa's own life was far more grotesque. Jaehyun smiles once more, telling him he still has time to decide. Whether that place becomes his execution ground depends entirely on his choice. For now, they move forward. The scene shifts. A king, majestic and commanding, addresses his generals. 1,000 suns, moonlit stellar radiance. He announces the recipient of today's name. The fourth prince, the Nameless, approaches, as Seonhwa and Jaehyun arrive at the majestic Sun Palace. There, they spot Lord Mai already standing ahead. Jaehyun steps out of the carriage and questions Lord Mai about the ongoing title conferment ceremony above, asking who he might be waiting for, suggesting it couldn't possibly be for him. Lord Mai responds coolly, acknowledging Jaehyun's perceptiveness and greeting him as the third prince after a long time. Jaehyun then indicates the direction he intends to go and brings up his younger sibling, Hwayun. Hearing this, Seonhwa reflects inwardly on the mention of younger sibling, dismissing it as a mere power play. Lord Mai consents and allows the third prince's party to ascend first. Jaehyun then reminds Lord Mai that the title recipient must be escorted by the previous title holder. Lord Mai responds that he will take them up himself. Jaehyun, clearly irritated but restraining his anger, accuses Lord Mai of inviting humiliation upon them at the summit. He questions Lord Mai's uncharacteristic behavior, one who typically only appears during legal code assemblies. Despite their shared Sun Palace affiliation, Lord Mai's demeanor remains cold. Jaehyun also recalls a previous invitation from the Haryong merchant group that Lord Mai ignored. Lord Mai clarifies that he never acknowledged their shared Sun Palace ties and explains he had no obligation to clean up the mess of Jaehyun's faction. Frustrated, Jaehyun raises his voice, demanding an explanation. Hearing Jaehyun shout, Seonhwa steps down from the carriage, intrigued by the hostile relationship between the two, but decides to set the matter aside for the moment. He requests Lord Mai to proceed, and Lord Mai agrees, inviting the third prince to ascend first. Seonhwa follows behind him up toward the palace. As they walk, Jaehyun turns to Seonhwa, reminding him that he has no one but his elder brother. Seonhwa acknowledges him respectfully in return. While ascending, Lord Mai compliments Seonhwa's attire, noting that clothes truly shape the man. Seonhwa expresses his gratitude. Lord Mai then brings up the reason behind his presence, guessing Seonhwa must be curious. Seonhwa confirms. Lord Mai reveals that the northern martial sovereign visited that morning and mentioned Seonhwa's overwhelming victory against the prince, with Elder Yang as a witness. Seonhwa confirms this is true. Lord Mai is astonished, a fourth prince with no formal martial training achieving such a feat. Seonhwa credits his master's excellence. Lord Mai chuckles, telling him to save such flattery for more appropriate moments. Internally, Lord Mai questions whether Seonhwa has secretly mastered martial techniques. He dismisses the thought, remembering that Seonhwa was once powerless on the heavenly path. He then wonders if the Sun Core's power from the Eternal Sovereign's legacy might be the true source. Lord Mai directly asks Seonhwa if he is wielding the Sun Core without the life-death trigram. Seonhwa confirms. Lord Mai praises him, saying that once he masters the trigram, he will become unstoppable, assuming he survives the day. He warns of the danger posed by the Second Prince and the Silent Cloud sect, particularly Second Princess's maternal grandfather, sect leader Jangsun. When Seonhwa asks about the First Prince's faction, Lord Mai replies that while the Heavenly Rain sect might act impulsively, the Black Cliff Pavilion is sluggish and unlikely to interfere. He warns Seonhwa not to trust those factions, emphasizing the need to be cautious of the Third Prince's manipulative eyes and silver tongue. Seonhwa reflects that in the end, the Palace Lord is the one who truly matters. Lord Mai confirms, calling Seonhwa his disciple, and adds that the Palace Lord is as unreliable as a mirage. He stresses that today's life or death struggle depends entirely on impressing the Palace Lord. With that, Lord Mai disappears into the palace in a flash. Jaehyun watches the two from a distance, wondering about the nature of their secret conversation. Soon after, he and Seonhwa enter the palace together. The palace maids welcomed them. Seonhwa reflects silently, recalling that Master Jangmyeong met the Northern Martial Sovereign earlier that morning. He believes his master devised a plan to save him by distracting the third prince with a power struggle and sending him word in time. Jaehyun takes his seat, while Seonhwa approaches Lord Jaegangsan. Observing him, Seonhwa realizes that the Palace Lord holds the final key. He is in awe of Jaegangsan's martial majesty, far surpassing anything found in their remote region. Jaegangsan then speaks, bestowing a new name upon the fourth prince, Jaecheon Mule, Heaven's Destructions. The court bows and chants in unison, one heaven's sun, night moon's radiance. But Seonhwa remains silent. Jaegangsan notices Seonhwa's silence and questions whether he objects. Seonhwa confirms, shocking the court and provoking laughter from the other princes. Jaegangsan asks if he desires another name. Seonhwa, deep in thought, reflects on Master Jang Myong's plan. But he realizes there was one person his master overlooked, himself. He declares that he already has a name, Seonhwa-yun. Internally, Jagang-san recalls that one who once tried to kill their own blood would not hesitate to do it again, and wonders if this is merely pride. Seonhwa then declares by the name of the war god and the northern sky general that Seonhwa-yun is his true name. Jagang-san recognizes the name and says it aloud. At that moment, Lord Jang-sun-hu of the Silent Cloud sect steps forward with a sharp accusation. He claims that concealing one's true name before the title ceremony is a crime and demands execution. Jagang-san notes Lord Jang-sun's clear hostility. Seonhwa replies that the Silent Cloud sect has always looked down on him. Jagang-san then confirms if Seonhwa truly defeated Jaecheon-hyuk and shattered Yang Mongshani's arm. Seonhwa confirms both. His replies leave the court in shock. Jagang-san then reflects aloud on the worth of destroying the Sun Altar, attributing it to the favor Seonhwa enjoys. He then presents Seonhwa with a choice: to accept the name Jaecheon-mul and live a tranquil life as the fourth prince, or to remain as Seonhwa-yun and walk a thorny path. With those words, Jagang-san releases a powerful energy from his body, causing discomfort among everyone in the palace. Seonhwa reflects on this display. Whether it was a step toward godhood or demonhood, it was a realm of ascension achieved by fewer than 20 in all Zhongyuan. But Seonhwa is clear. Sorrow, hatred, vengeance, joy, and laughter all define his existence. A life where he cannot speak his truth is meaningless. Though he could retreat or bow his head, abandoning his identity would render everything worthless. Finally, with unwavering conviction, Seonhwa shouts that his name, past, present, and forevermore, is Seonhwa-yun. As Seonhwa unleashed his power, he successfully blocked Lord Jagang-san's overwhelming force. Everyone present stood in stunned silence. Jagang-san acknowledged Seonhwa's decision. Since he had chosen this path, Jagang-san declared that Hwa-yun's name would be temporarily revoked, along with his title as the fourth prince. Having rejected what was once bestowed, Seonhwa was now ordered to atone. He then turned his attention to sect leader Jang-sun. The nuisance troubling the Silent Cloud sect's coastal territory had still not been resolved. Jagang-san reminded Jang-sun of the delayed exchange caused by this issue. Jang-sun confirmed the threat. The blood-cloaked fiend who had appeared half a year ago still caused chaos. Jagang-san issued his command. Seonhwa was now appointed Special Expedition Commander of the Sun God Palace's Southern Sea. His task was to travel to Nanhai Songzhou of Dongbong Fortress and eliminate the blood-cloaked fiend. Despite Jang-sun's request to execute Seonhwa, Jagang-san refused. Instead, he would send Physician Mai to examine Jang-sun's grandson, Jaecheon-hyuk. He further pointed out that the lands plagued by the blood-cloaked fiend once belonged to Jang-sun's sect. Therefore, he requested Jang-sun to support Seonhwa's mission. Jang-sun accepted, expressing that it would be his honor. Jagang-san summoned Lord Mai. The physician was now officially appointed to assist the expedition commander. When asked what he needed to see, Lord Mai replied that he must see it with his own eyes. All things, he said, must be judged by the sun's law. With that, the conferment ceremony concluded. Everyone present shouted in unison, "By the sun's law." Later that night, Seonhwa and Lord Mai met privately. Seonhwa questioned him, realizing he had spoken with the palace lord beforehand. Lord Mai admitted he had to prevent his only disciple from dying. Seonhwa asked about the earlier conversation with the palace lord. Lord Mai explained that he intended to teach Seonhwa the life-death trigram. Seonhwa recognized that this moment of closeness would not come again within the palace walls. When he asked who else knew about the life-death trigram, Lord Mai answered, "Only he, Seonhwa, the palace lord, and the northern marshal." Seonhwa pondered silently. There were two others who might suspect something. He concluded he should be cautious of them. Lord Mai noted Seonhwa had already packed. He remarked that his disciple truly lacked greed. Seonhwa replied that perhaps he simply owned nothing to carry. Inwardly, Seonhwa recalled how he once carried everything, from armor to spears and swords. Those weapons likely remained stored in the imperial vaults like war trophies. Lord Mai then asked Seonhwa for his impressions of the palace lord. Seonhwa asked what exactly he meant. Lord Mai shouted in frustration. He was speaking of a Hwajing master, a level all martial artists aspired to reach. The palace lord was extraordinary. He wondered how Seonhwa could remain composed without formal martial training. Seonhwa reflected. Though it wasn't easy, as the former war god, he endured by gritting his teeth. Then, scorching energy erupted from his sun core, preventing his body from stiffening under the master's pressure. He affirmed that it worked perfectly. In fact, the sun core's energy raged within him, resisting submission. Lord Mai was stunned. This was more remarkable than he had imagined. Without mastering the chaos life energy or the life-death trigram, Seonhwa's sun core had awakened. Lord Mai admitted he had little historical data on the sun core, only that an ancient predecessor had once mastered the life-death trigram using it. Seonhwa, motivated by Lord Mai's dedication, resolved to actively participate. He asked to be taught the life-death trigram. Lord Mai explained that while it was known to be difficult, it was more than physically demanding. It was unlike any demonic art. The life-death trigram was the ultimate bizarre technique, walking a razor-thin line between life and death. He opened a box, revealing a red substance. He explained that the first patriarch claimed the trigram held all combat principles of the world. Seonhwa asked how one could walk this boundary. He asked if he was supposed to consume the substance. Lord Mai warned it wasn't a physical item. It was a secret technique, weaving ideology into the life-death meridians. He asked Seonhwa if he had heard of the world's sin and karma. Then Lord Mai spoke of the chaos life energy, the same concept Master Yan once shared. Seonhwa noticed how similar Lord Mai's words were to those of Master Yan. Lord Mai clarified. By consuming this technique, life and death would become indistinct. In that state, one could practice the one-fist supreme chaos life trigram, the ultimate form composed of 7 stages. Though seemingly simple, it was known as an aberrant art for a reason. He challenged Seonhwa to try consuming it and see if he still spoke so casually afterward. Most humans, he warned, couldn't handle its malice and sin. They would die or lose their minds. Without hesitation, Seonhwa consumed the substance. Lord Mai was horrified. He grabbed Seonhwa and shouted. He wasn't supposed to take it all at once. It was deadly poison. He could lose his mind at any moment. But Seonhwa appeared completely fine. He admitted he briefly felt something. Lord Mai was stunned. He wondered if this was the power of a sun-moon divine star with a sun core. At least the outcome was favorable. He asked if Seonhwa could feel the chaos life energy. Seonhwa thought to himself, this was the same method Master Yan once used to weave the 3 forbidden curses in his past life. He had once been crushed by the chaos life energy, unable to tell friend from foe, consumed by the urge to kill. Now he could feel it clearly. Lord Mai likened it to gaining a new arm. To absorb it so naturally from the start was unheard of. He questioned whether he should even teach Seonhwa the life-death trigram. Seonhwa simply replied, they'd know once they tried. It already felt familiar to him. Perhaps this was how the power of the stars manifested. Then he left. In the next scene at Hangshan Temple, someone informed Elder Han that His Majesty had summoned him to court the following day to discuss the New Year's spring sacrificial rites. Elder Han asked if the military god festival proposed for mid-autumn was being held. The messenger didn't know the details. Elder Han acknowledged the message and dismissed him. Then he looked up at the moon. Something about it felt eerily familiar, just like the night decades ago when they performed the rites to divine peace in the world. It was exactly like the day his revered teacher, the previous Hangshan Temple master, had passed away. The same day Sion Huayun, the one who devoured all evil, had appeared. He muttered a prayer, the heavenly god born from chaos. Perhaps the world was still in turmoil. Perhaps the war god had returned. Blood began to drip from Elder Han's mouth. As the carriage moved steadily forward, Seonhwa sat inside, lost in thought. The memory of the previous night lingered. He had taken the pill of chaotic immortality. Because of that, he could now use a bit more sun power. At best, it was first-rate, though it might actually be second or third-rate. Glancing toward the lawmaster, Seonhwa silently wondered why the man was even traveling with them. Lord Mai looked toward the lawmaster, remarking that his nitpicking made him seem more like the Lord of Pettiness than the Lord of Law. He then revealed that he had come to check on the young master under Her Majesty's command. In response, the lawmaster pointed to Seonhwa's arm, asking if Lord Mai now understood just how dangerous his disciple's intentions were. Seonhwa dismissed the concern, calling his disciple's actions a tiny mess. Lord Mai disagreed, calling it a disaster. He rebuked Seonhwa as well, reminding him that as the Lord of Northern Arms, he should have intervened sooner. He had only acted once things escalated beyond control. The lawmaster defended Seonhwa, saying they should be grateful he even stepped in. Without his intervention, the disciple might have disabled Elder Yang's martial arts using just his words. Lord Mai paused, realizing that Elder Yang's right arm had indeed been broken. Curious, he asked about the elder's current condition. The lawmaster replied that he had reset the major bones, and the elder was doing all right. As he recalled that night, the lawmaster couldn't shake the image of Seonhwa. He had appeared sharper than a beast acting on instinct, like a seasoned general who had survived countless battles. It was a presence no young master should have. Lord Mai then prompted the lawmaster to introduce himself properly, reminding him that he was now Seonhwa's second master. But the lawmaster brushed it off, claiming he had never agreed to help. Lord Mai teased him again, asking when the great Lord of Northern Arms became so petty. The lawmaster quickly replied that it happened the moment he was called a problem too. Lord Mai scolded him, calling out his small-mindedness and pointing out that the bright-eyed junior was watching him. The lawmaster scoffed, saying there was no bright-eyed junior. Seonhwa was already slick with his words after just a few days as a disciple. Looking at Seonhwa, Lord Mai silently questioned how Elder Yang had been manipulated so easily by the boy's words. He then turned back to the lawmaster, pressing him for the real reason he had joined their group. He doubted Her Majesty had sent him merely to check on them. The lawmaster replied that it was a secret. When Lord Mai asked if even they weren't allowed to know, the lawmaster glanced toward Seonhwa, wondering if he was now part of the group. Seonhwa stood and offered to leave them alone. The lawmaster retorted, asking where he thought he could go in the middle of a moving wagon. He then expressed concern that Seonhwa's mission had become more difficult. He suspected someone was interfering, possibly the Blood Spear monster, a warrior said to be heading south from the north into Mukun's territory. This revelation surprised Lord Mai. The lawmaster confirmed it, adding that even the Gwangryong Joko clan was mobilizing. He pointed out the madness of such a move, especially considering they'd be entering Songju in the South Sea. Lord Mai recalled the bitter blood feud between the Mukun and the Gwanggryong Joko clan. It was the head of that clan who had severed Jang Sunho's arm, leading Mukun to relocate to the south and eventually become one of the three main factions of the Sun Palace. The Joko clan had forced Mukun out of the East Fortress and taken over, making the Sun Divine Palace a neutral zone between the two. While the Joko clan expanded across the country and dominated the East Fortress, they left the South Sea untouched because of the Sun Divine Pill. This rare elixir was so valuable that even the Heavenly Dragon Alliance and the 12 Zodiac Stars couldn't ignore it. Through the Joko clan, one of the Zodiac Stars, the demonic Sun Palace had traded the pill with righteous factions. To preserve this fragile balance, both sides had promised not to trespass on each other's lands. But now, with that promise being broken, a major obstacle loomed ahead. The Lawmaster clarified that the intruder wasn't coming as a member of the Joko clan, but as a representative of the Zodiac Stars. Worse still, it was the little dragon himself. Lord Mai repeated the title, surprised. The Lawmaster explained that sending a powerful figure would cause conflict, and sending a weak one would be meaningless. So they had chosen the best possible option. Seonhwa asked what made the little dragon so special. Lord Mai explained that among late-stage martial prodigies, titles like Dragon and Phoenix were highly esteemed. The title Little Dragon was the highest honor, indicating great power. Seonhwa then wondered if this figure was a direct descendant of the clan head. Lord Mai clarified that the little dragon was from the direct bloodline of the previous head. Still, he reassured Seonhwa that they wouldn't need to clash directly, which was the reason he had chosen to accompany them. The Lawmaster stated he had other things to do and preferred not to be involved. Lord Mai told him to be quiet. With that, the group arrived at Songju. However, the guard at the entrance blocked their way, stating firmly that they could not enter. The group protested, questioning whether the guard even knew who they were. The guard acknowledged they were from the palace but still refused entry. Lord Mai pointed out that their orders came directly from Her Majesty. The guard insisted that unless he received an official decree, he wouldn't budge. Lord Mai pressed further, asking what the guard would do once the decree arrived. The guard calmly replied that he would accept any punishment then. Seeing this, Seonhwa stepped in and asked if he could handle the situation. But the guard remained firm, stating once again that no meant no. Without warning, Seonhwa struck the guard in the face, knocking him out cold. Lord Mai, taken aback, muttered that perhaps there had been a mix-up in the delivery of the decree. Seonhwa agreed, suggesting that such confusion was possible while crossing the vast central plains. He reminded Lord Mai that this was just a small outpost, not a main branch. If necessary, he and his master could simply destroy it and burn it to the ground. Shocked, Lord Mai asked if he was serious. But Seonhwa laughed, admitting it was a lie. He said he only beat the guard because he was annoying. After all, he was the young master. What could they really do? Lord Mai smirked, saying that since they claimed the decree hadn't arrived, then he was the young master now. Seonhwa suggested they move on. Songju, after all, was famous for its porcelain trade. As they walked in, Seonhwa reminded Lord Mai that he was disinherited as the young master. Still, they would find a place to stay even without help from the Mukun branch. Lord Mai asked if he planned to kill them. Seonhwa repeated that it was only a joke. Later that night, Lord Mai noticed Seonhwa preparing to leave and asked where he was heading at such an hour. Seonhwa replied that he just needed some fresh air. Tomorrow, they would receive information about the Blood Spear monster from the Mukun branch and begin training in the infamous Life and Death Divide. Since Seonhwa had never stepped outside the Sun Palace, he thought it would be good to go out while he still had the chance. He mentioned that Songju had no night curfew. Lord Mai found it surprising that Seonhwa, who had once lived such a sheltered life, now spoke of going out on his own. He handed Seonhwa some money, saying it should be enough for the night. Seonhwa thanked him. Lord Mai warned him to be cautious. Out in the streets, even a man without arms or legs could be dangerous if he set his mind to it. Especially on nights like this one, with no moonlight, it was best to avoid the back alleys. Seonhwa casually responded that he would just grab a snack from the night market and return soon. Once outside, Seonhwa took a deep breath and felt the night air. It was refreshing. The weather was perfect for a quiet stroll. Although he had been advised to avoid the back alleys, he knew that's exactly where he needed to go, a place he was already familiar with. He continued walking until he reached a specific house. Entering the building, he announced that they were closed for the night. An old man inside looked at him curiously. The man noted that Seonhwa didn't seem like the kind of young master who would normally come there, but he acknowledged that blood never waits for the right time. The old man asked if the blood on Seonhwa was his, to which Seonhwa replied that it wasn't his, nor was it the old man's. Pointing toward the sky, Seonhwa said he needed the blood of the yellow dragon. The old man was visibly shocked and immediately stood upright. Seonhwa observed that, even with its claws pulled, this place still sharpened its fangs. The old man then responded that Seonhwa was bringing up ancient stories a young master had no need to know. He claimed not to know which household Seonhwa belonged to, but offered his final respects. Seonhwa pointed out that the man had bowed twice, as if Seonhwa was already dead. He addressed the old man by his title, the Lonely Demon Blade, Yeon Namcheon. Hearing this, Yeon Namcheon immediately ordered all the men around him to kill Seonhwa. Without delay, they all moved forward to attack him at once. The old man grew tense, silently reflecting on the mention of the yellow dragon's blood. It was a forgotten code. Watching Seonhwa's footwork closely, he wondered if it could be Amonin. Just then, his men lunged at Seonhwa with swords, but Seonhwa dodged with ease, stepping aside. Observing him, the old man sensed something ominous, something he had never felt from any other master. Seonhwa calmly warned that continuing this would only get people hurt. He advised stopping now. But the old man challenged him, sensing that Seonhwa had picked up a few techniques but lacked real internal energy. He believed such skill wouldn't work on his men. As his subordinates attacked, the old man recognized their coordinated formation. But this, he thought, was exactly what he had been waiting for. The martial art of the fire mirror, drawn from the great avatar Ramu, Byukra Cheonwang style. Just then, his eyes widened. Seonhwa was compressing it. Channeling his ability, Seonhwa unleashed the power of the sun. Within his thoughts, he proclaimed himself the martial god. The old man stood stunned as Seonhwa approached him, asking if he was ready to talk. Calling him Godokmaya. Godokmaya identified the technique. It truly was the Byukra Cheonwang style, and if that was true, then the footwork was indeed Amhonin. Seonhwa confirmed it. The old man burst into laughter, calling Seonhwa insane and asking who he truly was. Seonhwa reminded him that this was supposed to be a place that asked no questions. Godokmaya recalled the 6 laws of Yukumo. It had been so long, he had almost forgotten. He invited Seonhwa inside. To him, discovering the buried Godokmaya and speaking of the yellow dragon's blood was reason enough. But Seonhwa replied that it didn't feel like enough given the suffering he had faced. Godokmaya laughed and promised to reveal even more. Inside, over tea, Seonhwa breathed in the aroma. In his mind, he recited a mantra: no eyes, no ears, no nose, no mouth, no sense of self, and no sense of others. This was the 6-fold absence, Yukumo. Originally a martial sect that diverged from the empire of Jeong, Yukumo was subdued by the loyalty of its master, Yeon Namchun. Like wolves, the sect had evolved into an intelligence organization. After the nation's founding, Namchun retired from the front lines and returned to his hometown, Songju, to run a pawnshop. Songju became his place of rest. Long ago, Namchun had said that if rest ever came, he and his companion would drink tea and watch the ocean together. Seonhwa now wondered if Namchun had truly aged so much since the days he brewed tea in unwashed cups. Namchun warned Seonhwa that while he might be able to handle Amhonin, the Byukra Cheonwang style was still beyond him. He asked about Seonhwa's condition. Seonhwa replied with sarcasm, telling him to worry after not trying to kill him. Namchun noted the irony. They had just been trying to kill each other, and now they were sharing tea. He admitted he didn't enjoy watching his tea companions cough up blood. Seonhwa retorted that a bucket would help more than vomiting on the floor. In his thoughts, Seonhwa acknowledged that using martial arts beyond his level caused serious internal injuries. However, thanks to the Sun Heart technique, he would recover by tomorrow. Normally, such damage would require a year of elixirs and rest. Even without gathering internal energy, this would help him reach the sun and moon divine body. Namchun then asked what brought Seonhwa to him. Seonhwa, thinking silently, knew that Namchun likely suspected a connection to the martial god. But it wasn't time to reveal the truth, that he was Seonhwayun, the martial god. Instead, Seonhwa claimed he came because he had questions and wanted to hear about the martial god, Seonhwa. Namchun understood he wasn't looking for public tales. Someone who knew of the yellow dragon's blood and of Namchun had to know more. He explained that the martial god first appeared during the end of the Central Plains War. Peace was expected after the Western Wars, but then an ancient evil dragon awakened. The martial god vowed to stop it. When Seonhwa repeated the phrase, an evil dragon, Namchun admitted he didn't know the whole truth, only what the emperor and the 6 lords had claimed. Officially, the martial god was listed as missing, said to have descended with the evil dragon to the bottom of the earth. Since then, the royal family held a mid-autumn festival every year in his honor. Seonhwa reflected that this tale must have been created for a reason. He remarked that it was a beautiful story. A man who fought harder than anyone, sacrificing himself for peace. Then he asked if Namchun truly believed the martial god fell with the dragon. Namchun noticed something familiar in Seonhwa's speech, the way he led others to speak at length before delivering the key point. It reminded him of someone. Among those who knew the martial god, they used to call him the yapping martial god. Now that he thought about it, Seonhwa had the same shamelessness. Only a handful knew Aminin. Only top-level fire mirror masters could use the Byukra Cheonwang style. Seonhwa noted that he had used it just now. Namchun confirmed that only one person ever mastered both, the martial god. And then, someone appeared again after 15 years, using the Byukra Cheonwang style. Seonhwa dismissed the idea, saying he only came for free information. Namchun reminded him that the yellow dragon's blood was a secret code used only by the royal family and the 7 Peaks, and the only ones who knew Godokmaya was hiding there were the emperor and the sword king of the 7 Peaks. He wouldn't ask or answer anymore, but had already sent men to uncover Seonhwa's identity. Seonhwa replied sarcastically, calling that generous. Namchun asked if he shouldn't at least answer the main question. He told Seonhwa that he went to Nakwagok, the site where the martial god supposedly fought the evil dragon. He believed the martial god could defeat even a mythical dragon. But all he found were remnants, traces of 2,000 guan of explosives and martial arts only the martial god could use. No dragon scales. No evidence of any dragon. After that, the 7 peaks transformed into the 6 lords of the realm and returned to their provinces. Since then, there had been little movement. Even the Sword King, Sanguibok, had remained quietly in Changrang for years. Seonhwa noted that this all began after the martial god's disappearance. Namchun agreed. Whether the martial god vanished or was made to vanish, no one could say. In his thoughts, Seonhwa acknowledged that Namchun truly was who he claimed to be. Namchun asked if Seonhwa sought revenge. Was he the successor of the martial god? Seonhwa responded that's what Namchun believed. Namchun then asked if the martial god was still alive. Seonhwa replied that he didn't know, but silently thought to himself, "It's me." When asked again what his connection to the martial god was, Seonhwa said there was none. Namchun accepted that and asked him to smile, to live with the happiness the martial god never attained. Seonhwa responded softly. In his thoughts, he accepted it. That's how it shall be, Namchun. Namchun gave Seonhwa a special gift, calling it the last gift this old man would ever offer him. Seonhwa grew concerned and asked why he spoke as though he was about to leave. As Namchun opened the gift box, he revealed its contents, a book, and explained its significance. It was modeled after Jeonryong Jihai, a place where Yukmumun's best personnel gathered to collect and analyze information. He had created his own version of it. Seonhwa immediately began reading the book, absorbing its contents. Meanwhile, Namchun summoned one of his warriors and introduced him to Seonhwa. Since Namchun couldn't accompany him, this warrior would go instead. The warrior was Sibiryong. Seonhwa hesitated, pointing out that this was the same person who had once drawn a sword against him. But Namchun assured him that Sibiryong would be of help. Seonhwa accepted the decision. Namchun then brought up one more matter. He asked if Seonhwa would need information on Songju, referring to the 4th young master of the Sun Palace. This made Seonhwa wonder silently if Namchun had already uncovered that much, once again proving the formidable capabilities of Yukmumun. Elsewhere, Lord Jangson was questioning one of his men. He confirmed that the gatekeeper had been knocked out and that the 4th young master had settled into a small inn in Songju. Lord Jangson found this behavior unusual and unexpected. He noted the young master's tenacity and reflected on his own caution, acknowledging that even someone at the pinnacle of power like himself wouldn't dare defy the palace lord. Yet the young master had done so with sheer mental strength. Jangson realized that even a tiger cub was still a tiger. Lord Jangson turned to the man in front of him and addressed him as Pavilion Master Gong. When asked for his opinion, Gong began by recalling the deep roots of Songju in Dongbongseong, Namhai, land that had belonged to them since before the nation was founded. He suggested that if it hadn't been for the Mujin Association, the current Sun Palace would not exist. Interrupting, the brigade leader pointed out Gong's tendency to drag out introductions. He urged him to get to the point. Gong acknowledged this and got straight to it. He proposed eliminating the 4th young master who had harmed young master Jie Chonhyok. If it were up to him, he would also dispatch brigade leader Cheong Mui. Cheong Mui responded with aggression, saying that if he caught the young master, he would tear him apart. But Gong cautioned that with the palace lord's left arm, Maui, and right arm, Bokmujon, present, such a direct move could bring disaster. They needed to act carefully and ensure that no one could trace the attack back to them. They should make it appear as if they knew nothing, just as the enemy had done before. The brigade leader pointed out that Maui knew who they were and that he had been helping them. He argued that Maui would recognize them immediately. Gong admitted this but suggested separating Maui. The brigade leader mockingly asked if they should injure one of their own and request Maui's treatment. Gong clarified that they had their own physicians. To make Maui act, something special was needed. Lord Jangson then asked if he was referring to a fragment of Amcheon. Gong confirmed it. If someone was poisoned by Amcheon, even the reluctant Maui would likely respond. While the Haryong Merchant Guild had refused Maui, the Mujin Association had more influence. Lord Jangson remembered the strange feeling he had when the Haryong Guild had handed over the Amcheon fragment so easily. Now, it seemed that this poison would be used against the 4th young master, Huayun. Gong then raised a key point. Why had the palace lord sent the 4th young master to them, knowing full well what had happened to Jie Chonhyok? Lord Jangson realized the implication. The palace lord had given them a gift. Gong confirmed this. The 4th young master was already marked as a sacrifice for the Yondan ritual. The brigade leader was delighted. He declared that everything fit perfectly and asked permission to attack, vowing to turn the young master into sashimi. Lord Jangson concluded that the first sacrifice was always difficult, but a second one was far easier. He viewed it as both a ritual offering to the divine altar and a gesture of reconciliation from the palace lord. As he left, Lord Jangson gave the final command. Blood must be repaid with blood. The Hyolparangdai and Tamjo units were to begin their mission. Lord Mai appeared and noticed Seonhwa's arrival, commenting on his lateness. Seonhwa, without delay, stated their need to strike the Mugen Association. Lord Mai, surprised, asked if the Mugen Association was the same Black Society gang Seonhwa had clashed with the previous night. Seonhwa clarified that it wasn't, but it was indeed the Mugen Association that their master had been thinking of. Lord Mai acknowledged that the Mugen Association was the largest faction under the Sun Palace. Seonhwa confirmed this. Doubtfully, Lord Mai questioned what someone who had only just arrived from the Sun Palace and was chasing the blood-robed fiend could possibly know. Seonhwa answered that he had discovered something the previous night. Lord Mai internally wondered how someone so new could uncover such information in a single night. Seonhwa insisted on sharing more, requesting that Lord Mai hear him out. Lord Mai agreed and asked him to go on. Seonhwa began by asking if Lord Mai remembered when the blood-robed fiend first appeared in Songju. Lord Mai recalled that it happened about a year ago. Seonhwa then asked if anything unusual occurred around that time. Lord Mai remembered that the Haryong Merchant Guild, connected to 3rd Young Master Je Cheonhan, had asked him to treat someone who had been poisoned. He didn't find it significant at the time. Seonhwa explained that the Haryong Merchant Guild, which operated in the South Sea, had always avoided Mugen Association territory to prevent conflict. Since the Mugen Association aligned with the 2nd Young Master and the Haryong Guild with the 3rd, a visit from the Merchant Guild to Songju must have involved a special, likely dangerous, trade item. Lord Mai was intrigued, thinking about how Seonhwa could know such details. He considered the possibility of involvement from the orthodox factions, Hao Moon, or maybe even another secretive place. He admitted that apart from that event, there had been no known interactions between the Mugen Association and the Haryong Guild. Seonhwa then questioned why Lord Mai had assumed the case was poisoning. Lord Mai explained that he heard about the patient's condition, and though he didn't go due to the guild's involvement, the patient's symptoms pointed clearly to poisoning. Black spots all over the body and black blood pouring from every orifice. It could have also been demonic energy or a severe curse. Seonhwa called out to him. Lord Mai urged him to speak directly. Seonhwa brought up how Lord Mai never really trusted the Haryong Guild, sensing something off about them. Lord Mai agreed, stating he didn't know what it was, but he knew the place was dangerous. Seonhwa continued, pointing out that if the Haryong Guild went all the way to the Mugen Association in Songju, they must have traded something unique and risky. Lord Mai understood where Seonhwa was going, recognizing the possibility that someone from the Haryong Guild got poisoned by that item, and the Mugen Association acquired it. Seonhwa confirmed this. Internally, he admired Lord Mai's intelligence, sharp instincts, and quick thinking, considering him someone far too valuable to be left in a forgotten corner of the Central Plains. Lord Mai asked if the blood-robed fiend had come to Songju seeking that item. Seonhwa agreed. Lord Mai now saw why Seonhwa wanted to attack the Mugen Association. Seonhwa emphasized that eliminating the source was the easiest way to eliminate the resulting chaos. Lord Mai admitted the plan was tempting and logical, but there was no concrete evidence. Even if they attacked, they still didn't know what the item actually was. In his thoughts, Seonhwa believed they could find out. He knew because the item once belonged to the martial god. Lord Mai recalled that among many weapons forged from the shattered hell-slashing demonic sword, one was known as Amxianal Kwang, or Magiam Amxian. This sword had consumed countless souls and was once wielded by the martial god. After the god's disappearance, the sword shattered into fragments, scattering its demonic energy. One such fragment was believed to be in Songju, and the 4th Young Master of the Sun Palace would need to know. Seonhwa knew he could sense the fragment's demonic energy once inside the Mugen Association's main building. He believed they would discover the truth once they got in. Suddenly, a voice from outside asked for permission to enter. Lord Mai inquired who it was. The man introduced himself as a member of the Mugen Association, apologizing for yesterday's events and explaining that he urgently needed to see Physician Mai. Surprised, Lord Mai asked why. The man informed him that one of their brigade leaders had been poisoned, showing signs of black blood from all orifices. It was a dire situation. Lord Mai stood up and opened the gate. The man urged him to come quickly. Lord Mai wanted to know who had been poisoned. The man hesitated. Lord Mai made it clear that if the information was confidential, he wouldn't go either, especially after their young master had been harmed. The man explained that their leader had issued strict orders, but the poisoned ones were the gatekeeper and Physician So. Lord Mai realized that Rehom, his friend, was among them. Seonhwa silently questioned whether this was coincidence or fate, that Maui's close friend was poisoned right now. The man said the gatekeeper had been injured and taken to the main association for treatment by Physician So. By that afternoon, both were vomiting black blood. Seonhwa concluded they had been under surveillance since his arrival in Songju. Lord Mai understood and agreed to go. He called for the special duty officer to come along. Lord Mai contemplated that if it had come to this, taking the 4th young master along would be best for the investigation. But the man opposed the idea. Lord Mai asked why. The man insisted that the young master could not enter the main building. Lord Mai protested, reminding him that Seonhwa was also from the Sun Palace. Seonhwa silently warned his master that such perfect coincidences didn't happen without cause. The man explained that their leader deeply cared for young master Je Cheonhyok, and it was for his sake. They feared that if the 4th young master entered, he might not be allowed to leave. He added that Ado Dairang Seongliwi and the Hyolparangdae might attack Seonhwa on sight. Meanwhile, Physician So was on the brink of death. Lord Mai refused to go alone. Seonhwa assured him that he could stay back without issue. He was no child, and nothing would happen just because he was left alone in Mugen Association territory. Lord Mai accepted this and advised him to seek the Yulbeop Jeonju, the law enforcement head, if anything went wrong. He would surely help. With that, Lord Mai left with the man from the Mugen Association. Left alone, Sionhua reflected that perhaps the poisoning was real, but something felt wrong. A rain of blood seemed imminent. He resolved to prepare, so that when it came, it would be the blood of their enemies that soaked the ground. Sionhua met Sibiryong once more. He asked her about the situation. She informed him that half of the Hyul Parangde and the Tamjo unit had made their move. All personnel in the vicinity were being replaced. Curious, Sionhua asked about the Tamjo unit. She explained that the unit was something between an information group and assassins. They focused more on gathering intelligence and covert operations than actual killings, and they were skilled in many miscellaneous arts. Sionhua questioned his chances of survival. She responded honestly. He then proposed a bet. He would bet on his survival, and she would bet on his death. If he survived, she would have to answer all his questions. Sibiryong remarked that even if he lived, nothing would change. Sionhua confidently replied that was only because his victory was guaranteed. Suddenly, Sibiryong vanished from the spot. Smoke filled the area around Sionhua. He immediately recognized it as poison smoke, not deadly, but paralyzing. It was clear they wanted to kill him with their own hands. Fortunately, thanks to the solar core, the poison had no effect on him. An attacker launched an assault, but it had no impact. Shocked, the attacker froze. Sionhua grabbed his hand and thought back. Since the dawn of time, humans had wielded weapons. The pinnacle of that art was embodied in the Do, a blade of extreme speed. The Do had brought about countless deaths. More enemies swarmed in. Sionhua fought them off with skill and precision. In his mind, he acknowledged the cruel truth. A weapon grows heavier with the blood it consumes, and feeding blood to the weapon is the destiny of the martial god Huayun. Their boss shouted for everyone to retreat. Sionhua called out to them, mocking them. He dared them to beg for mercy, asked to be spared from a dog's death. One of them angrily retorted, accusing Sionhua of hiding crucial information. Internally, Sionhua admitted his internal energy was weak, but by matching each move to the rhythm of the Taiyang Seam, he could fight effectively. Elsewhere, an injured man reported to Lord Mai, accusing him of deception. Lord Mai replied he had no choice. He asked about So Rayhum's whereabouts. Someone answered that Rayhum was probably where he always stayed, being valuable to the Mugen Association. A man introduced himself as Jeonyong, the leader of the Tamjo unit under the Mugen Association. Lord Mai questioned whether leader Jangsen was aware of this. Jeonyong claimed he couldn't say. Lord Mai concluded that it must have been authorized, likely as a move to eliminate Huayun, who had defeated Jangsen's maternal grandson, the second young master. Lord Mai reflected with regret. He should have taught Sionhua the life and death struggle technique earlier. Defeating the second young master in a duel was one thing, but facing a full-on group assault was different. A subordinate hurriedly approached and informed Jeonyong that the deputy unit leader had moved ahead with the assassination squad. Jeonyong was frustrated. He had told them to wait. He asked about the Hyul Parang members, but no one knew. He ordered immediate reporting of any new developments. Lord Mai noted aloud that things seemed to be going badly. Jeonyong insisted there would be no problem dealing with the fourth young master. Lord Mai questioned whether he feared future repercussions. Jeonyong was surprised to hear such words from Physician Maui. He hinted they knew something about how the fourth young master's mother had died. Lord Mai glared, replying that he would fall to hell later. But Jeonyong looked like he was already on his way there. Jeonyong, now afraid, offered his life if Physician Maui desired it. But Lord Mai scoffed. His life was too light. He wouldn't accept it even in a jar. Jeonyong wondered aloud if the fourth young master would be the one to take his head. Lord Mai replied, perhaps. Jeonyong laughed it off but said he'd look forward to it. Lord Mai corrected him. The boy was no longer the fourth young master, but now the special duty officer. Jeonyong acknowledged it, calling him the special duty officer whose life was about to end. He added that the gatekeeper had truly been poisoned, so Lord Mai might as well check it out for fun. Then Jeonyong departed. Lord Mai thought deeply. The Tamjo unit. The fourth young master should be able to handle them. He had mentioned Bukmujan was nearby. If the situation was resolved there, sanctions could be imposed on the Mugen Association, and then Lord Mai could verify the fourth young master's hypothesis. That boy had created a situation where he was forced to act. Lord Mai had not expected the Mugen Association to remain passive forever. Still, he was shocked by their aggression. He wondered if the Palace Lord had known this would happen, or if he had intentionally sent the boy to Songjup, the Mugen Association's stronghold. The scene returned to Sionhua. He stood before a group and mocked them, mimicking a posture one of them took. He reminded them who had defeated that person, himself. His second older brother, who had weak skills despite big words, had once done the same. Looking at the men before him, Sionhua judged their level to be equally low. One man grew angry at his insults. The group attacked again. Sionhua realized how easy it was to provoke them. He fused both his swords together and unleashed a powerful technique. A red aura erupted. His enemies were stunned by the sound attack. Their ears hurt and they shouted in disbelief. It was Magong. They screamed that he had learned Magong. Sionhua brushed it off. In this day and age, it didn't matter whether it was Magong or Zhonggong. The Sun Palace was a branch of the demonic cult. Of course, he used Magong. In his thoughts, he cursed himself. He had underestimated the second young master, thinking he had relied on tricks. He hadn't believed he'd need the power of the Hyolparangde. He saw it as a chance to eliminate a brat with no internal energy and take the title of brigade leader. He ordered a full charge. The fight continued. Seonhwa battled fiercely and defeated them all. Later he wandered into a market. A young child approached and offered dumplings. Seonhwa agreed to buy one and told the child to eat half. The boy refused, saying he was full. Seonhwa mockingly asked if he should cut open the child's stomach to check. Frightened, the boy ran away. Seonhwa bit into the dumpling and sensed something strange. He thought the seller looked suspicious. This time the poison was stronger, but once again it was useless against the Taeyang Sim. He recognized the code. If Yeon Namcheon had raised the boy, he would have understood. Seonhwa recalled the coded word. 700 paces south near the Daeroi Hwangnyeongsa temple, Bukmujeon would be there. Seonhwa smirked. Sibiryong had proven useful. If he met Bukmujeon alive, it would be his victory. But if he was killed by some hidden mole before that, then it would be their win. He braced himself. This night would be long. In a sudden flashback, General Seonhwa is seen seated amidst the corpses of fallen soldiers on the battlefield. His younger brother approaches him and comments on how even their allies had stopped in awe, overwhelmed by Seonhwa's martial prowess. He expresses concern about the use of that terrifying martial art. Seonhwa acknowledges it, referring to the Heavenly Bloodlord technique. He insists that it should be used more. If even their own children hesitate to fight, the enemy's children must be far more terrified. For Seonhwa, just one more move could secure the safety of their children. But his brother pleads with him, saying that Seonhwa's name now carries a star, like a blood demon or a hell maniac. He doesn't want his brother to be remembered as a bloodhound or a monster anymore. Seonhwa calmly responds, saying that this is simply the way they live. He reminds his brother of the time they rose from the fringes of Jongyuan. He speaks of how the 300 men who once stood with them have now become a force responsible for the lives of 30,000. He can no longer run from this weight. No matter how often he washes his hands, the scent of blood never leaves. His brother begins to cry, apologizing. Seonhwa tells him not to shed tears. He isn't drenched in blood like Seonhwa is, so he should smile instead. He reminds him of how many lives he's taken using not just his sword but his mind and words. He declares that he will become even more vicious and cruel. All the curses and blood will be his to bear. It's the fastest way to end a world that thrives by washing its hands in blood. His brother, heartbroken, says he can't bear to see Seonhwa like this, and asks how Seonhwa remains so unaffected. Seonhwa urges him not to let his efforts go to waste. He's said it many times. It's his duty to end wars and bring peace. In response, his brother states that keeping the world at peace is his responsibility. With a faint smile, Seonhwa agrees. He trusts his brother because all he knows is how to kill and destroy. The flashback ends. Back in the present, Seonhwa slaughters enemies while reflecting on his brutal powers. He thinks about how he drains life and blood from his enemies, a dangerous addiction that transforms the user into a merciless beast. Fortunately, it doesn't conflict with the solar power of the Sunseeker technique. Like oil and water, both forces coexist without mixing. He then notices how even an old woman has joined the fight. He wonders if someone else is next. Jeonyoung, stunned, questions if Seonhwa is truly the fourth young master. Seonhwa sharply responds, challenging the meaning of that title. He asks if Jeonyoung is willing to let everyone die or take responsibility himself. Otherwise, Seonhwa will go handle it alone. Jeonyoung calls him an evil bastard. But Seonhwa fires back, claiming it's not him, it's Jeonyoung. He questions how many lives Jeonyoung is willing to sacrifice just to get him. Jeonyoung, panicked, recalls how Seonhwa requested the officials of Songzhou to turn a blind eye to today's events. He knows that if the Sword King of Dongbong Province finds out they deceived him, they must finish the mission perfectly. There's no turning back now. More men surround Seonhwa. Jeonyoung swears to kill him with everything he has. Seonhwa calls him shameless and rushes into combat. He pauses briefly, then unleashes his heavenly blood technique, slaughtering enemies with his sword. Lifting his blade toward the sky, he activates his brain thunderbolt technique, summoning a lightning strike that crashes down with devastating force. The Lawmaster watches the battle from a distance. Jeonyoung commands his men to group the burned-out fighters into threes. He analyzes Seonhwa's power, a strange spell that amplifies strength, brainwashing, and lightning manipulation. But he believes Seonhwa must be running low on energy now. Their victory seems close. At that moment, a young woman appears beside Seonhwa and offers her help. When asked why, she casually replies that she's headed in the same direction and has an appointment nearby. Seonhwa asks for her name. She introduces herself as Hwayeon and explains that she's an uninvited guest in Songzhou. She doesn't know where to step, but it looks like they're both headed to the same place. That's why she'll help him. Seonhwa reflects that no favor is ever truly pure, especially one offered during a blood-soaked battle. She had arrived without him even noticing. It felt like the start of a climax. But was this truly the climax? Hwayeon assures him he can trust her. Seonhwa replies that it's not about skill. He just doesn't know if she's friend or foe. She insists they can still be allies. He asks why. She responds that those who want to kill her also want to kill him. Jeonyoung observes them and wonders who she is. His sect has never tried to assassinate a woman like her. Seonhwa asks if the person she's meeting is at the top of the tower. She confirms. He had set an appointment with her unilaterally, and she couldn't refuse. It's the north zone of the Solar Palace, an invitation too significant to ignore, and there's something more. Jeonyong suddenly shouts, recognizing the name, Bei Mu Jin. He reveals that the person is none other than Nalanchoo of the Light Dragon Tiger. Seonhwa turns to Hwayeon and says that they're clearly on the same mission. He too is on his way to meet Nalanchoo, but these people are getting in the way. Hwayeon notes that he finally believes her. Seonhwa admits it's more of a deal than trust. She then asks if he's afraid of blood. Seonhwa replies that even martial artists fear blood. She offers to take half of it. Seonhwa responds that he likes the idea. With that, Seonhwa and Hwayeon begin their battle together, cutting through the enemy with swift, deadly force. The scene opens with a man addressing the Lawmaster, referring to him as the Martial Lord. The Lawmaster calmly corrects him, saying that the title Martial Lord is too much and prefers to be called the Northern Martial Lord. The man then mentions a kid who commands the wind, but notes that the wind reeks of blood. He asks if the Lawmaster personally trained the kid. The Lawmaster replies that he hasn't yet. The man seems relieved. Curious, the Lawmaster asks why that's a relief. It is revealed that the man is Cheong Mui, leader of the Silent Cloud sect. He declares that since the kid will die by his hand today, it's better that the Lawmaster hasn't gotten attached to him yet. The Lawmaster asks if Cheong Mui truly believes he won't interfere. Cheong Mui reflects that even after crossing energy with the Lawmaster, he still can't reach him. He admits that the Lawmaster has always refrained from making the first move unless the opponent is guilty. The Lawmaster remarks that Cheong Mui still hasn't let go of past wounds. Cheong Mui argues that too much blood was spilled to erase them. If the Lawmaster had stepped in, Yado Daerang from the previous generation might still be alive. The Lawmaster reminds him that Silent Cloud Sect's original condition for joining the Sun Palace was mutual support in exchange for autonomy and a way to reach the Flower Realm. Cheong Mui counters that the Solar Palace wanted influence over Silent Cloud Sect's southern forces in Dongbong Province, but even after 20 years, they haven't received anything. The Lawmaster says they provided plenty. Cheong Mui questions how a mere peak-level expert from Jigongsan became a Flower Realm Master, but says he endured it, thinking Jechon Hyuk would understand once he became Sect Master. The Lawmaster explains that Jechon Hyuk was injured by a nobody and may never return as a Martial Master. That's why he remained silent. If it wasn't for Silent Cloud Sect and that young master, he would have taken action long ago. Cheong Mui expresses his respect for the Northern Martial Lord's decisiveness and says he has prepared a gift. When the baited ones are struck, others will appear. The Lawmaster acknowledges it as a fine gift. Cheong Mui says it's all he could offer the young master to help him survive just a little longer. The Lawmaster clarifies that the gift is good because it may lead them to witness the true sunrise. Cheong Mui seems confused and asks if he means the sun. The Lawmaster confirms, explaining that while the Sect Master represents the sun, he is only someone close to it. Puzzled, Cheong Mui wonders if the Sect Master's enlightenment isn't a rightful one like the 7 Heavenly Masters. He starts to question whether the so-called useless young master might reach the true realm of the sun. Meanwhile, Seonhwa unleashes his Thunderbolt technique during battle. Cheong Mui watches him, furious, thinking of him as the true sun amidst the chaos. Cheong Mui then turns to the Lawmaster and asks since when he knew the young master was extraordinary. He begins to wonder if Jeshon Hyuk's defeat was fate. The scene shifts to Hwayeon, who is engaged in combat. An enemy commands others to seize someone, but Seonhwa appears and attacks the man. Together, Seonhwa and Hwayeon begin taking down their enemies one by one. Their fierce fighting causes fear among the enemy. Seonhwa mocks them for their weak words and suggests that this is why their followers die so easily. One of the men objects to the insult, but Seonhwa immediately kills him and remarks that the resolve to kill is the same as the resolve to die. He reflects that with every kill, the aura of the Thousand Blood Lord grows stronger. If this continues, he might reach the Supreme Peak Realm. Seonhwa then faces Jeonyong and asks for his last words. Jeonyong replies that he is only the beginning. Seonhwa expresses slight satisfaction, admitting he was about to be disappointed, thinking the Silent Cloud sect was weak. Jeonyong finally understands the Demon Lord's words and declares that he will take Seonhwa with him. Hwayeon offers to help, noting that Jeonyong is only targeting Seonhwa. But Seonhwa refuses, stating that if the opponent is staking his life on the sword, then he must do the same. Both fighters ready their blades. Watching Seonhwa, Hwayeon senses that he intends to end the fight in a single strike and resolves to do the same. Jeonyong charges forward. Seonhwa closes his eyes and prepares his technique. Though not at his full power, he focuses on delivering the 400 severing strike. With his Annihilation Blade technique, he slices Jeonyong cleanly in two. After the battle, Hwayeon notices Seonhwa has picked up his twin blades again. Seonhwa says it's not over yet and recalls Jeonyong's words, that it was just the beginning. Hwayeon worries if he should have used that much power. Seonhwa replies that it was worth it. He reflects that if he could use the Thousand Blood Lord energy infinitely, he would have discarded it. But since it's limited, he used all of it to bring Jeonyong down. More importantly, he has finally realized the identity of his opponent. Seonhwa then looks to Hwayeon and confirms his suspicion. The opponent was none other than the little Scarlet Dragon Myung-hun from the Scarlet Dragon Joko clan. Hwayeon remained silent for a moment, then looked at him intently. She questioned if he was truly a small light dragon. Xianhua denied it. Huayon continued, explaining that when she dressed up, no one recognized her. She didn't speak, so her voice was also unrecognizable. In his thoughts, Xianhua wondered if others had a black eye. Huayon suddenly asked how he knew. Xianhua glanced toward the palace and replied that a man named Book Mujon had told him. Rain began to fall. Xianhua stated that he was going to meet Xiao Guangling. They walked as they talked. Huayon asked about Book Mujon and if the two were close. Xianhua confirmed they were. In her mind, Huayon recalled that Book Mujon belonged to the Sun God clan. If Xianhua was friends with him, he might be a special disciple, or even the son of the palace lord. She expressed confusion about why such a person would oppose the Silent Cloud sect. Still, she questioned if it was alright to leave the corpse behind, noting the Guan soldiers could arrive soon. If things escalated, maybe the Sword King would intervene? Xianhua asked if she meant someone important. Huayon confirmed. She referred to Sword King Sangbok, the lord of Dongbong Castle. Though he wouldn't react to something so minor, the guards still needed to be careful. The Guan army remained strong and loyal to the Six Kings of Heaven and Earth. She added that the recent martial arts revolution involved recruiting masters from Guan counties. Regardless, they admired the Sixth King of Heaven and Earth, a master who had crossed walking without any merit. Xianhua remarked that many people must have been bribed to clean up the mess. He pointed out how obvious it was when such a bloodbath occurred in a second-class city's main street and no one intervened. Huayon warned that if they didn't act, they would be hauled in as suspects. Xianhua observed that not even an ant was present and urged her to leave. In his thoughts, he reflected on human blood. He had spent much of his energy using Bloodstealer. He could have used it all day before, but couldn't rely on his old powers forever. He reminded himself that they had to deal with what was in reach. They were there for the Blood Fiend. And Li Huayan had traveled deep into enemy land to capture it. He questioned her reason for chasing the hemorrhagic monsters. Huayan simply answered that she was told to catch them. When he asked by whom, she said the head of the Scarlet Dragon clan. In his thoughts, Xianhua acknowledged she had no intention of hiding anything. Huayan asked if there was blood on his face. He denied it. She questioned why he was told to bring him there. Huayan explained that it was because the crossbow lord asked him to. Xianhua confirmed. Was it the one from the fight between her and the Heavenly Dragon clan? Huayan nodded and mentioned Cross Castle. Xianhua recalled what he had been told about the Martial Kingdom's current structure. Factions were split between the Crusaders and the Heavenly Dragon Alliance. The Crusaders included the Ming clan. The Heavenly Dragon Alliance had the Eastern Shield Swordsmen and the Sega Center. The alliance was led by the Emperor's Iron Armament sect and the East Feng Formation sect. She had said that the 5-8 Sword sect and the Six sects were all part of it. He challenged the notion of their affiliation with the Sun God sect. Huayan asked why he didn't question why the Cross Star Lord gave such an order. Xianhua admitted he thought she might want to know. She replied that he was a good man. Xianhua, in his mind, compared her words to a compliment from a 15-year-old. Huayan reminded him of a truth now embedded in the martial arts world. Coffins had become stronger than martial power. Even if martyrs increased 100-fold, they still couldn't match the 6 great royal families, let alone the imperial family. Xianhua said they had been pushed out by both reason and strength. Everything was controlled under the 3-pronged system. Huayan agreed, adding that pure martial artists hadn't fought in the Great War, so they weren't viewed favorably. Xianhua reflected on the weight of blood. From the founding, power had been divided by the bloodshed during the Central and Western Wars. Noble martial artists hadn't stood up when people were suffering. He had once wanted to tear them apart, though it never happened. Huayan explained why Guan had left the martial world. The vast landmass was reserved only for the autonomy of the lower 3 tiers under the Zhongyuan Reconstruction Plan. Xianhua confirmed her statement. Huayan compared it again to the Crusaders and the Heavenly Dragon Alliance. She asked who would pamper the Crusaders in such a situation. Xianhua answered, the Emperor or the royal family. Huayan pointed out that the current Crusader Lord was cunning and only cared about increasing his faction's power. That was why she had come. Xianhua asked if using her own forces was considered wasteful and dangerous. Huayan said her family knew it, which was why they had sent her, despite how they ignored it until they needed it. Xianhua thought of the Scarlet Dragon Joko clan, hostile even to their own family. That's why she had spoken so obediently. Huayan asked if what she shared was helpful. Xianhua admitted it helped a little. She responded with slight disappointment, expecting it to be more useful. Xianhua, thinking further, realized that the orders had come from the Emperor or the royal family. He hadn't known it was already part of their agenda. He wondered how the political faction system still survived. He hadn't expected Huayan to split the Crusaders and the Heavenly Dragon Alliance to keep balance. If that was who she truly was, then so be it. But despite all this knowledge, there had still been no mention of Mushin, the former Y. He asked if he could catch her. Huayan asked if he meant the hemorrhagic monster. Xianhua said he had to catch it. Huayan shrugged. She wasn't exactly chasing a plague monster. She only wanted him to return the spear he held. She asked him to hand it over. Xianhua echoed the word. Spear. He needed to think about it. Huayan replied that she'd think about it too. In his mind, Xianhua recalled her saying that the bloodsucker carried a red spear. His red spear. Though not shattered like a rock star, it had fallen into the wrong hands. They had to face the mysterious high-blood plasma monster. Anything would do. Then, from the shadows, a voice emerged. Someone praised Seonhwa Yun's abilities and beauty, noting such grace was rare in Songjo. Seonhwa demanded to know who it was. The man looked at her and remarked that it was hard to see such a beautiful woman in Songjo. Hwayeon responded sharply, saying it was hard to find an ugly man like him. Seonhwa watched the exchange and silently thought to himself, this tight man was holding a proper knife handle. The man urged him to look again, saying he wouldn't see that body after death. In his mind, Seonhwa noted that human blood liquor couldn't be used. Only 2 beats of the sun heart could be collected. He questioned whether the man really thought he could win with that. Hwayeon questioned if it should really be so hard for him. The man laughed, pointing out that the 2 of them were ganging up on him. He mocked them for fearing to fight alone. More people arrived and surrounded Seonhwa and Hwayeon. Seonhwa, sensing the dark blood incense and fierce aura, wondered where these people had come from. Hwayeon ordered Seonhwa to get behind her. She acknowledged they were outnumbered and admitted she might escape alone, but not while protecting him. Seonhwa asked if she was underestimating people. Hwayeon recalled how he had put all his power into that earlier red sword strike. Seonhwa confessed he had been scared and called his kids over. The man commented that Seonhwa looked stuck. Hwayeon offered to help, asking if she should close his eyes for a moment and slash the man with her sword. The man called her lady and told her to go home. They only needed the head of the man beside her. Hwayeon asked if they could go inside, as she had work to do, an old promise to fulfill. She emphasized it was just a one-day-old promise and asked if Yadao Dai and Ching Mu-yu agreed. Suddenly, everyone looked up. A terrifying figure named Cheong Mui appeared and laughed as he addressed Hwayeon, saying she seemed fierce but unfamiliar. He noted she knew him well. Hwayeon yelled that she knew who he was. She revealed herself as Li Guang's daughter, here to fulfill an old promise. Cheong Mui leapt down, and everyone bowed to him. Hwayeon declared the identity of her father, the Red Tiger of the Radiant Dragon, wielder of the Wandering Azure Sword. She named the Black Cloud Society's Yado Daoryang, Left Blade King, saying the roots ran deep. Cheong Mui, turning red with anger, demanded she repeat the name Kwang. Hwayeon complied, stating it was the same Kwang who killed his master, the entire squadron, and Master Zhao. She called him a bastard. Cheong Mui mocked the idea, saying it was the first he heard of Kwang having a mistress, and asked who she was. Hwayeon confirmed she was his daughter. Cheong Mui and his allies burst into laughter. He questioned if his eyes were failing him. Hwayeon gave a gentle smile and asked if he was scared. She warned that once the fight ended and he let his guard down, fear would set in because he was a coward who stabbed people in the back. Cheong Mui shouted that she was a gaping maw and called her crazy. One of his followers shouted at her for accusing their master. Cheong Mui cried out that his godfather was dead and insisted he wouldn't stab anyone in the back. He then ordered her death, calling her a tightly wound bitch. Seonhwa thought to himself that she was truly crazy. He acknowledged they were 2 for 2, Light Dragon Tiger and Mokyun Ho. He reflected that the lawgiver should have stopped this and addressed Behemoth in his thoughts. Above, the lawmaster watched and commented that their fight must be respected. These were enemies tied by parental bloodlines and the enemies of their master. Li Guang and Yado Daoryang stood face to face, and with that, their battle began. Li launched a swift sword attack at Yado, then turned to check his position. Yado responded with a smile, provoking Li to strike again with even more rage. Yado retaliated with his own sword, clashing against Li's assault. While smiling at Li, Yado suddenly paused, surprised to see a blue aura rising from Li's body. Amused, he laughed again, and both fighters unleashed their full power against each other. Meanwhile, Cheong Mui observed the battle while hiding behind a tree. He asked Mr. Bu about the North Mu Zone. At that moment, he heard his master's voice. Looking ahead, Cheong witnessed Li thrust his sword deep into Yado's chest. With that, Yado fell and died on the spot. After defeating Yado, Li dropped his sword to the ground and muttered that he had spent all his strength. Watching this, Cheong Mui was filled with rage. He refused to accept his master's death so easily. Suddenly, Cheong charged forward and attacked Li with his sword, killing him instantly. Back in the present, Cheong Mui recalled how even the corpse had been completely disposed of. He wondered how the truth had been discovered. Regardless of how much was known, he resolved to eliminate anything that posed a threat. Hwayeon confronted him, pointing out that he wasn't even denying it. Cheong replied coldly, saying he didn't need to answer foolish things. What mattered was that Li Guang never had a daughter like her. Seonhwa, sensing the situation, understood that this was a life-or-death battle. He wondered if it was now his time to step aside. Hwayeon, however, prepared herself to fight. Seonhwa watched her closely and judged her as someone doomed to fall. A flashback followed. On a past battlefield, Seonhwa reflected on a sacred rule: the flag must never be broken. The banner of the Northern Heavenly Captain had always remained upright. A warrior named Chung had once held that flag and had asked Seonhwa if they had won. Seonhwa confirmed it was a great victory, and Chung thanked him. Seonhwa then remembered how Chung, the best among them, couldn't wield a weapon because he had to carry the flag. For someone like Chung, a special martial art had been created, one tied to the great heavenly storm, blue darkness, and the brilliant red light of the light dragon Red Tiger. He wondered if that was a mere title or fate, and if this battle was the path destiny had chosen. Returning to the present, Huayon charged forward to attack Cheong. Cheong noted that martial arts should be used only when mastered fully. Using one not suited to the user would lead to quick defeat. Seonhwa observed that Li Guang hadn't been able to wield even half his power effectively. Huayon accused Cheong of being determined to kill. Cheong believed he just needed to hold on a bit longer to win, but Huayon declared she would make it unbearable for him. With that, she attacked using her scarf. Cheong managed to dodge the strike, remarking on her youth. But just then, the scarf curved back and struck him directly in the abdomen. Seonhwa reflects that he once thought of running away if things got worse, but now wonders if Huayon is compensating for her lack of strength with twin blades. Blood begins to flow from Cheong's mouth, and seeing this, his disciples try to approach him. However, Cheong orders them to stay back. He then acknowledges Huayon's skill, admitting he didn't expect such strength from her. Huayon declares her intent to kill him. Cheong, recalling his survival in the forest where no one was around, resolves to finish her here. Again, he commands his disciples to stay away. Some of them argue that Huayon isn't worth risking their lives for. One man notes that only their own people and some unknown beings are nearby, and adds that the North Martial Lord is up above and safe. Meanwhile, the Lawmaster silently urges everyone to run. Seonhwa notices this and is momentarily surprised. Suddenly, everyone starts fleeing as Cheong begins activating a terrifying skill. A dark aura bursts out around him. Seonhwa realizes it's a Western chain spell. Cheong laughs darkly, stating that it's been a long time since he used it. Huayon seems alarmed. Cheong confirms she recognized it from her master's battles, and reveals that he's using the Berserk spell, intending to end this fight now. He charges at Huayon, who attacks with her scarf. However, it has no effect. Cheong retaliates with a powerful kick that sends Huayon flying back, blood spilling from her mouth. He mocks her weakness and boasts that her words were all empty. Huayon, enraged, questions how many people he had to kill to master the Berserk spell. Cheong then tells Seonhwa to deal with Huayon first, after which it'll be his turn. He adds that he likes Seonhwa and wishes they'd met earlier. Smirking, Seonhwa remarks that such a meeting would have been Cheong's death anniversary. Cheong acknowledges Seonhwa's boldness. Seonhwa reflects on the origins of the Berserk spell, describing it as a low-tier black art once used in wars on slaves and beasts. He wonders why Cheong is proud of such a pathetic thing. Cheong continues talking, mentioning that Cheonhyuk had pride but lacked humanity, and promises Seonhwa's turn is coming. Seonhwa's solar energy seems eager to destroy the spell. He recalls that even the Cheonin blood curse was a black art, but this one feels different. Unlike the typical Berserk spell that harms friend and foe alike, this one appears more composed. He senses that this isn't the low-level version he knew and wonders if there's something more to it. Cheong then stands before Huayon and offers to call for the young master. Huayon refuses, insisting it's still her turn. She challenges the idea that strength gained through such chains is true strength. Cheong brushes off her idealism and claims he can easily crush loudmouths like her. He even offers to stand still, seeing her as a disgrace. Seonhwa internally states that giving up the first move is part of his strategy, and that using high-level martial arts doesn't guarantee victory. Cheong grins wickedly and taunts Huayon with the last words of Soyo Cheong's sword Li Guang before his death. Huayon, infuriated, says someone like Cheong isn't even worthy of mentioning that name. Seonhwa believes that the one who truly masters their martial art will emerge victorious. Cheong, however, mocks her again, saying she's already lost to someone like him. He recalls how they once called Li Guang general after just one precise strike. Huayon angrily responds that her father carried the banner of the Great Northern General. Seonhwa recalls how that man once withstood an attack from Huayon and planned to end the battle with the next strike. Cheong, scoffing, claims the warrior corps was unbeatable during unification, and if Li Guang really carried the banner, he should have been a peak-level master. Huayon insists that her father's case was special. Cheong laughs at the idea of a mere first-rate warrior calling himself a general. Seonhwa, deep in thought, is certain Li Guang was at peak level. He recalls Li Guang or Cheongam and admits he doesn't remember how he disappeared. Back then, the military was under someone else's control, which now seems even more suspicious. Cheong states that he has given Huayon enough time to recover and build up her energy. In response, Huayon leaps forward, channeling the martial art her father left her, vowing to take Cheong's life. Cheong readies himself, unimpressed, and says that if talk was all it took to win, he'd have been destroyed long ago. Huayon launches her attack. Seonhwa, observing closely, thinks it won't be enough and considers the move impossible. As Cheong prepares to strike back, a sudden, powerful thunderclap breaks the moment. The Lawmaster, watching the scene, notes that the one he had expected still hasn't arrived. Only unexpected people keep appearing. Behind him stands a mysterious figure. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment part 2 in the comment section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and like the video. Thank you for watching and see you next time again.